Hello, and welcome to Tired Thinker, a place for soft pauses and quiet reflection. Tonight we turn our attention to something both simple and infinite, the way ideas live among us. An idea rarely arrives with a shout. More often it drifts in like a sigh, subtle, almost invisible. Sometimes it disappears before we even notice. Other times it lingers, reshaping the way we move, the way we see, the way we carry ourselves through the days. Some ideas vanish like sparks in the dark, while others sleep inside us for years, waiting for the right moment to awaken. Without us realizing, these fragments gather, stacking into stories, into choices, into selves we're still becoming. But before we want, living by natural cycles starts with light. The sun sets the master clock in the brain. At first light, signals move from the eye to a small center called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. That center sets timing for hormone flow and body heat. Cortisol rises near morning. As dusk comes, melatonin builds and sleep draws near. Match your day to this wave, and work feels clean while rest feels deep. Rise near sunrise when your schedule allows. Step outside and face the clear sky for a few minutes. Do not stare at the sun. Skylight is enough. A bright, grey dawn will do. Save bright screens for daytime. Use lamps at night. Add a short walk before breakfast. Eat after you have seen the sky. These steps act as zeitgebers or time givers. Food, movement, and social time. Set the clock. Sleep sits on the same frame. Build a simple wind down. Lower the lights. Keep the room cool and dark. Go to bed at a stable time. Wake at a stable time. Short naps can help on hard days. Keep them in the first half of the day. If you work nights, pick a block for sleep and keep it most days. A mask and earplugs cut glare and noise. A fan gives steady airflow. Guard sleep to guard the clock. The moon brings a slower rhythm. Its cycle spans about 29.5 days. Some folks feel lighter sleep near the full moon. Since the sky holds more light, try a home log for one cycle. Note sleep and the phase each night. If you see a trend, use tighter shades on bright nights and add white noise. Many growers link phase to tasks. Waxing for growth above ground, waning for root and soil work. Treat this as a guide, test it, and keep what helps. Seasons shape mood, food, and work. In summer, days run long. The term for day length is photoperiod. A long photoperiod lifts growth in plant and person. In winter, the photoperiod shrinks and growth slows. Move with this swing. In summer, rise at dawn and place heavy tasks in cool hours. Work in shade near noon, if heat climbs. In winter, sleep a bit more and place deep work in short, bright blocks. Keep lamps warm after dusk and cook roots and stews. A small garden makes these ideas real. Picture a strip of soil or a set of deep pots. In spring, test the ground with your hand. If it clumps and feels cold, wait. When it crumbles, plant peas, radish, and spinach like cool soil. Sow them soon after the last frost date in your area. As the sun climbs, add tomatoes, peppers, and basil. They need warm nights and steady heat. Keep a rain log, place a barrel, and mulch to hold water and protect roots. Plant choice can follow the arc of light. Choose greens and herbs for spring. Add vines and fruit for high summer. Plant brassicas as heat drops. Set garlic in fall. In warm zones, sow fava or cover crops to feed soil through winter. Use a seed map and note germination, bloom and harvest dates. Over years, the map will show how your patch keeps time. Harvest rests on light and plant sugar. Pick greens at dawn for crisp leaves. Pick fruit as the day warms and sugar peaks. Snap beans when pods fill but before seeds harden. Cure onions on racks in a dry, shaded place with airflow. Store squash on shelves with space between fruits. Label jars, bags, and crates with date and place. You will see the dance between sun, soil, water, and hand. Households can plan days around these cues. Think of a school week. Kids wake at dawn, eat a warm meal, and walk or bike. Phones stay off in the first hour. Homework sits near a window. Dinner lands before full dark. Lights dim after sunset. A stretch and a chat set the mind for bed. Weekends lean toward land work and long light. A ride late morning, a rest after lunch, and a task in the garden keep rhythm. Food choice ties the loop. Eat fresh food that grows near you in each season. In spring, seek tender greens and eggs. In summer, reach for stone fruit, corn and tomatoes. In autumn, load squash, apples and brassicas. In winter, lean on legumes, grains and stored roots. Ferment, dry or freeze to bridge gaps. Share extra with friends or neighbors. Trade jam for herbs or beans for lemons. Waste drops as ties grow. Ritual keeps the plan steady. Link habits to cues that do not fail. Dawn is a cue. The first birds are a cue. The smell of soil after rain is a cue. Use them to start or close a task. Brew tea at first light, then step outside. Write a page by a window. Sweep the kitchen before bed. The rhythm stays simple and firm. Start small. Pick one habit for each cycle. For the sun, step out within an hour of waking. For sleep, set a stable time for lights out. For the moon, check phase once a week and note your sleep. For seasons, choose 2 foods that match the month. Add a pot or a seed tray on a sill. Track how you feel, work and rest. Over time, effort fades and ease grows. These steps do not reject modern life, they guide it. Your phone can show dawn time and moon phase. Your map can point to a park with clear sky. Your kitchen can hold dry beans and boxed pasta. The aim is not strict rule. The aim is to match your days to real cues. When you do, tasks feel less forced. You rest in dark and rise in fresh light. Work lands in bright blocks. Food tastes like the field and the day. The body trusts the path because it fits the world. Foraging begins with slow looking and simple rules. Learn a few plants well. Start in places you know. Take what you can name. When in doubt, leave it. Use sight and smell before taste. Stay humble. Edges hold useful food. The border of woods and field gets long light and rich soil. Dandelion, plantain, yarrow, and nettle form a starter set. Each one heals or feeds in a clear way. Dandelion offers bitter greens and a strong root. Look for toothed leaves in a basal rosette. The hollow stem bleeds white latex. A single yellow head rises from the base. All parts are edible. Roots roast for a coffee stand-in. Make tea from chopped root. Plantain sits flat and tough in paths and packed soil. The leaves show thick ribs that pull like strings. Seed spikes stand upright. Crush a leaf and lay it on bites or stings as a poultice. It cools skin and keeps dirt out. Young leaves feed you when cooked. Old leaves turn fibrous, so slice thin. Yarrow grows in dry ground with a clean smell. Leaves look like many fine feathers. The flower grows in flat umbels, white or pale pink. Use the leaves as a field dressing on minor cuts. A tea can open pores and aid fever care. Do not confuse with poison hemlock. Hemlock has purple blotches on a smooth hollow stem and smells like mouse. Yarrow has a solid stem and a strong scent. Nettle asks for respect. The stem and leaf carry stinging hairs. Gloves help at first. Blanch the leaves and the sting fades. The greens provide iron and deep flavor. Nettles grow near water and rich soil. Look for opposite leaves with serrated edges and square stems. The sting teaches care and patience. Roots call for more study. Some save you, some kill. The carrot family, or Apiaceae, holds both food and poison. Learn to read the umbel and its clues. Wild carrot, or Queen Anne's lace, has a hairy stem and a lacy white head. A dark floret may sit in the center. The root smells like carrot. Poison hemlock lacks hair and shows purple blotches on a smooth hollow stem. Water hemlock has chambered root stalks full of toxic alkaloids. Never eat a wild carrot without full ID of root, stem, leaf and flower. Wild garlic and onion teach nose work. Look for hollow leaves or flat blades that smell like onion when crushed. True allium smells right. False hellebore and death camas do not. They offer grass-like leaves, but no onion scent. Leave them. Cattail gives food in clean water. In spring, pull the young shoots, called Cossack asparagus. In early summer, steam the green flower spikes and eat like corn. In fall, shake pollen into a bag and add to bread. The rhizome holds starch, Scrape, soak, and settle to separate fibers from flour. Willow bark holds salicin, useful for pain. Strip thin green bark from young twigs. Dry it and make a decoction. Sip for headache or sore joints. Yarrow and willow form a simple kit. Add plantain for skin and nettle for food. Acorns feed you after you remove tannins. Gather firm brown nuts from white oaks for lower tannin. Shell them, crush the kernels, and leach in water until the water runs clear. Dry the meal and cook as porridge or flatbread. Oak gives food when crops fail. Elder offers flowers and fruit. The shrub shows opposite leaves and large white umbels in early summer. Dark berries hang in clusters in late summer. Cook fruit to blunt raw compounds that upset the gut. Make syrup for the cold season. Do not eat red. Elder raw. Do not eat the leaves or stems. Practice builds skill. Begin with a walk and one plant goal. Read the leaf margin, the petiole and the vein pattern. Note habitat and soil. Smell every safe plant you meet. Keep notes with sketches. Use the Latin binomial to avoid mix-ups. Carry water, a small knife, clean bags, and a notebook to record finds and spot patterns over time and moods. Harvest with care for the stand. Cut, do not yank. Take from many plants, not one. Leave the root when you can. Place soil back over disturbed spots. Rotate harvest sites through the season. Cooking and storing matter as much as ID. Blanch bitter greens and then sauté. Dry herbs in shade with moving air. Store roots cool and dry. Make small batches first. Your body needs time to adapt to wild foods. Season shapes the menu. Spring brings shoots and tender greens. Summer gives flowers and soft fruit. Fall brings nuts, seeds, and roots. Winter gives bark teas and evergreen needles. Learn a few options for each season where you live. Know your no list. Ukilander, foxglove and monkshood kill. Jimson weed and nightshade harm the mind and gut. Hemlock and water hemlock kill. In small bites, castor beans hold ricin. Avoid any white sap in a strange plant. Avoid shiny three-leaf vines and ground covers unless you know them, since poison ivy and its kin cause rash. Watch for lookalikes and stick to plants with a full set of checks. Trust process over thrill. Foraging is slow craft, not a stunt. You build memory through repeat looks, taste and use. You practice with easy plants in clean places. You add one new plant at a time. You share meals with friends and trade notes. You listen to elders and land stewards. You leave rare plants alone. You give thanks through restraint. The goal is not a wild feast each day. The goal is quiet skill and a few sure allies. A cup of nettle tea, a strip of willow bark, a handful of acorn cakes, and a jar of dried yarrow can carry you through much of a year. These are simple tools. They come from edges, paths, and riverbanks. They ask for your attention, and they return it as food and care. Water is life. From the first drop that falls from the sky to the last one that flows through the earth, it sustains every living being. For centuries, humans have treated water as something sacred. Rivers, springs, and wells have been revered, seen not just as sources of life, but as gifts from the divine. In many cultures, water is not just a physical element, but a spiritual force, something that connects people to a deeper understanding of the world. In ancient times, people understood that water was not something to be taken for granted. Rivers, springs, and wells were considered sacred because they provided the essentials for survival: drinking water, irrigation for crops, and the ability to cleanse. But beyond these practical uses, water symbolized a spiritual connection to the earth and the divine. The way water flows, sometimes slow and steady, other times wild and powerful, mirrored the rhythms of life itself. One of the most notable examples of this reverence for water is found in the traditions surrounding rivers. Take the Ganges River in India. To millions of Hindus, the Ganges is not just a river, but a goddess, Ganga, who has the power to purify the soul. Pilgrims travel from all over India and beyond to bathe in its waters, believing that doing so will cleanse them of their sins and offer a chance at spiritual rebirth. The river is seen as a physical manifestation of the divine, flowing from the heavens to the earth and offering an unbroken link between human life and the divine order of the universe. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, the Nile River was viewed as the lifeblood of the civilization. It brought water to a land that otherwise would have been desert. The Egyptians believed the river was a gift from the gods, particularly the god Hapi, who represented the fertility of the Nile. They held elaborate rituals to honor the river and ensure the yearly flooding that would make the land fertile and able to sustain crops. In this way, water was not simply a natural resource, it was a divine presence that needed to be respected and cared for. Springs have also been considered sacred for thousands of years. Springs are natural sources of fresh water, often emerging from deep underground, and they have been linked to healing and renewal in many cultures. The ancient Greeks believed in the healing power of springs and dedicated them to gods like Asclepius, the god of medicine. Pilgrims traveled to these springs to bathe and drink from them, hoping for a cure to their ailments. Many of these springs are still considered sacred today, attracting people seeking physical and spiritual renewal. In Christianity, wells are seen as places of divine intervention. The story of the Samaritan woman at the well is one of the most well-known passages in the New Testament. Jesus meets a woman at a well and offers her living water, a symbol of eternal life. Wells in the Bible are often seen as places where divine messages are revealed and where people meet with God. In this way, wells are not just practical sources of water, but places where the divine intersects with the human world. Water's sacredness is not limited to these well-known examples. Many indigenous cultures across the globe view water in a similar light. In Native American traditions, rivers and lakes are seen as spirit beings that hold deep connections to ancestors and the natural world. The Lakota people, for example, believe that the Missouri River is a spiritual being that helps guide them on their journey through life. They treat the river with great respect, offering prayers and ceremonies to honor its power and significance. The Maori people of New Zealand have a similar connection to water. Their concept of wai refers not only to physical water, but to its spiritual significance. Rivers, streams and lakes are viewed as ancestors, and the Maori believe that each body of water has its own personality and power. It is said that the health of a river reflects the health of the people who live near it, and the people are responsible for the river's well-being. This sense of duty is deeply rooted in the belief that the earth and its waters are living entities deserving of respect. In many parts of the world, water is also seen as a means of purification. In Buddhist traditions, for example, water is used in rituals to cleanse both the body and the mind. Washing away dirt or impurities is a metaphor for letting go of negative thoughts and emotions. In this way, water serves not only as a physical cleanser, but as a spiritual one, helping individuals to renew themselves and find peace. In Africa, many communities hold water as sacred and have elaborate customs and rituals surrounding it. Rivers, lakes and wells are often associated with deities or spirits that protect the water and ensure its availability. The Maori people, for example, revere the Nguruman springs, which they believe are the home of a powerful spirit. The Maori Pika guard the springs, as they are crucial for their cattle and the community's survival. Similarly, the Yoruba people in Nigeria view certain rivers and streams as embodiments of their gods, and they perform regular rituals to honor these sacred waters. The sacredness of water is not just about reverence but also about protection. When a community treats a river, spring, or well as sacred, they are also committing to the protection of that water source. This sense of responsibility is evident in many traditions. In some places, it is forbidden to pollute or waste the sacred water. In others, strict rules govern who may use the water and how much they may take. These practices help to ensure that the water remains pure and abundant for future generations. This reverence for water continues today, even in modern times. As societies around the world face increasing challenges related to water scarcity and pollution, the ancient practices of treating water as sacred can offer important lessons. Water is still viewed as a vital and life-giving resource, one that should be respected and protected. The teachings of ancient cultures remind us that water is not just something to be used and discarded, but something that should be cared for, celebrated and cherished. While the spiritual significance of water may differ from culture to culture, the underlying message is the same. Water is a precious gift, a source of life that connects all people to one another and to the earth. When we treat water as sacred, we not only acknowledge its importance, but also recognize our responsibility to protect and preserve it. This responsibility is not just for us but for the generations that will follow. In this way, the sacredness of water is not only a reflection of our past but a guiding principle for our future. Tracking begins with your eyes. When you walk, look down. The forest floor, fields, or mud are full of signs. Fresh tracks in the dirt can tell you where an animal went, how long ago, and sometimes what it did. A single step can reveal much. The key is to look carefully and understand the marks left behind. Start by noticing where you are. A muddy path tells a different story than dry, cracked earth. Know your environment first. Soft ground shows more detail. Hard ground shows less, but still offers clues. Animal tracks vary. A deer leaves a narrow, pointed print. A fox's tracks look smaller and more pointed. Birds often leave a lighter mark with 3 or 4 toes. Even smaller creatures like mice or squirrels leave tiny, delicate prints. Each one has a specific shape and size, so once you know a little about animals, you can start to identify them by the marks they leave. Look for patterns. When an animal moves, it doesn't just leave one footprint, it creates a series of steps, often repeating in a rhythm. The spacing between these steps is a clue too. An animal running will show prints far apart. A walking animal's prints will be closer together. If the prints are deep, the animal might be carrying more weight, or the ground was soft. Shallow tracks mean the opposite. Look for additional signs too. Sometimes tracks are hard to find. Look for broken twigs or disturbed leaves. These marks can show where the animal has brushed through. In a forest, you can often find these signs around trees or along trails. Animals follow paths of least resistance, so look at places where the ground is worn down. Not all animals leave the same signs. Some move quietly, leaving no mark at all. Others, like wild boar, dig up soil as they move. Bear tracks can be large and deep, with claw marks visible. A bear's tracks might look like a person's if you are not careful. Compare the print's shape to what you know. A bear's foot has a rounded, wide shape, while a human print is narrower and more defined. Sometimes the weather provides hints about animal activity. Storms can push animals to find shelter. Before a storm, birds often become more active, flying from tree to tree. The air might feel heavy or still, and animals tend to seek cover as the weather changes. Knowing this, you can anticipate where they might be. The day before a storm, squirrels gather food. Animals seem to know what's coming. They adjust before the weather does. Rain changes everything. After a rainstorm, the ground softens and reveals tracks. Wet surfaces catch the fine details of footprints. The rain also brings sounds. As it falls, you can hear how animals move differently. Squirrels in the trees seem quieter, perhaps because they don't want to get caught in the downpour. They huddle in tree branches or nests. Look for the trees with broken branches or displaced bark. When they are hiding from rain, their hiding places might look more disturbed than usual. Look at the ground. Sometimes the soil after a rain has a texture you can read. Soft ground makes deeper prints. Tracks in rain are easier to see but only last a short time. Wind is another indicator of animal movement. When the wind picks up, animals often move less. Deer, for example, don't like strong winds. They seek shelter in thickets or behind dense brush, where they feel more secure. Birds also change their behavior with the wind. On windy days, look for animals hiding in the forest shelter zones. If the wind is light, animals might be more open, foraging, or moving. Temperature changes also matter. As the temperature drops, animals shift their activity. In colder months, animals like deer and elk tend to forage in the late morning or early afternoon when it's warmer. They are more active when temperatures are higher than at dawn or dusk. Conversely, as the temperature rises, animals often hide in the shade during the hottest part of the day. Understanding the temperature shifts helps you predict when animals are most likely to be out. On a hot day, check the shadowed spots, cool water sources, or the edges of forests. You will find more animals near these places. The changing seasons are another way to read nature. In spring, the ground thaws, and animals emerge from hibernation. Look for signs of movement near watering holes, streams, and forest edges. In summer, the grass gets higher, and animals like rabbits are harder to spot, but their tracks are visible, particularly early in the morning before the heat rises. By autumn, animals prepare for winter. Deer begin feeding on fallen fruit, acorns, and the last of the crops. Look for tracks in areas where animals gather food. Hunting animals, such as wolves or coyotes, tend to leave different types of tracks compared to those just passing through. When predators move, their gait is different. They may cover long distances quickly, so the tracks are often spaced farther apart. Wolves travel in packs, and their prints might show up in clusters. The smaller tracks you see often belong to the younger or slower members of the pack. Look for their shared movement. A predator's track might lead to a kill site, which may include more broken ground or disturbed brush where the animal stalked its prey. Familiarize yourself with the sounds of the forest too. Every step in the wild creates noise. A soft rustle might be the movement of small creatures. The deep, slow step of a deer is quieter than the rapid, sharp steps of a squirrel. Animals leave more than just prints. The broken branches, the scuffed dirt, the disturbed leaves, all these things matter. As you walk, notice how the forest responds. When animals move through, they leave subtle signs behind. When tracking, trust your eyes. Look at everything: the pattern of the prints, the placement of the tracks, the texture of the ground, and the way the forest responds to movement. After rain, tracks in the mud are clear, but they don't last long. Look quickly, and look often. The forest can tell you much, but it requires patience and a steady eye to read its language. Animals don't live in isolation. They are part of a system, one that you can learn to read with practice. Their movements and actions reveal the natural world's shifts. By understanding these subtle cues, you can predict where animals will be, what they are doing, and how the weather is affecting them. With time, you learn to hear the language of the woods, spoken in footprints, disturbed leaves, broken branches, and weather shifts. Each step taken by an animal is a story, and you can read it if you know how. Working with nature starts with understanding it. Long before we tried to control land, people worked alongside the earth. They observed and learned from the plants, animals, and soil. Ancient farmers did not force the land to fit their plans. Instead, they saw it as a living system that needed care. They worked with nature's rhythms, planting, growing, and harvesting in ways that respected the land. This practice has been called permaculture, a term that focuses on designing systems that work in harmony with nature. It's not a new idea, but one that reaches back thousands of years. Permaculture is more than planting a garden. It's about understanding how plants, animals, and soil interact. It's about creating a balanced ecosystem where each part supports the others. Instead of forcing one crop to grow in a field, permaculture encourages polyculture, where different plants grow together. This way, the soil stays healthy, pests are kept in check, and plants help each other thrive. For example, planting corn, beans, and squash together in a Three Sisters garden is an ancient permaculture practice. The corn provides a tall stalk for the beans to climb. The beans fix nitrogen in the soil, helping the corn grow. The squash covers the ground, shading out weeds and keeping moisture in. Soil is the heart of all farming. In ancient times, people understood that the soil is not just dirt, it is full of life. Earthworms, fungi, bacteria, and other tiny creatures break down organic matter and make it into nutrients. When we take care of the soil, we make it easier for plants to grow. One way ancient farmers cared for soil was through composting. They would gather leaves, manure, and other organic materials and let them break down into rich compost. This compost was then spread over fields to add nutrients and improve soil structure. Another ancient method of soil care was using mulch. In dry areas, farmers would cover the soil with plant matter to keep moisture in. This kept the soil cool, stopped weeds from growing, and added organic matter. Even today, mulching is one of the easiest ways to improve soil health and reduce the need for water. It's a simple practice, but it makes a big difference. In permaculture, the goal is not to work against nature, but to join with it. People can build systems where plants and animals work together. For example, a small farm might raise chickens and plant fruit trees. The chickens eat insects and weeds, keeping pests under control. In return, the trees provide food and shelter for the chickens. The chickens also leave manure that helps fertilize the soil, which benefits the trees. This symbiotic relationship saves time and effort, and it makes the system stronger over time. Water is another important part of working with nature. Ancient farmers understood the value of water and used it wisely. In places where water was scarce, they built canals, terraces, and ponds to store and manage it. By slowing down and spreading out water, they prevented flooding and erosion. They also made sure that water reached the roots of plants where it was needed most. Today, we can learn from these ancient systems by using methods like rainwater harvesting, swales, and drip irrigation to use water more efficiently. Swales, for instance, are ditches dug along the land's contour to catch rainwater. The swale helps water soak into the soil rather than running off. This simple technique can help prevent soil erosion and keep the land hydrated during dry periods. It also creates a place where plants can grow in the moist earth. By using the land's natural slopes, swales allow water to move where it is needed, without the need for complex irrigation systems. In many ancient farming practices, diversity was key. One of the most important aspects of permaculture is growing a variety of crops instead of just one. A single crop is vulnerable to pests, disease, and changes in the weather, but when you grow many types of plants, the risk of all of them failing is much lower. A diverse farm can support different kinds of animals, insects, and plants, each with its own role to play. For example, some plants attract beneficial insects that help control pests. Others might provide shade or act as windbreaks. By planting a variety of crops, a farmer can create a system that works together and supports itself. Ancient farmers also understood the importance of preserving seeds. They saved seeds from each year's harvest to plant the next season. This practice ensured that the best plants, those that grew well in local conditions, could be passed on to future generations. It also kept them connected to the land. When people save their own seeds, they become more attuned to the cycles of growth and the needs of the land. One of the simplest ways to work with nature is to observe. Spend time in the garden or field, watching how things grow and change. Notice which plants thrive and which ones struggle. Learn how the seasons affect the land and how animals and insects interact with plants. This helps build a relationship with the land. It's not just about working the soil, but about understanding it. In ancient farming traditions, observation was key. People knew when to plant based on the first signs of spring, or when to harvest by watching the moon. These old ways are still useful today. Even in modern times, many of these ancient practices are still relevant. Small farms and homesteads around the world use permaculture to grow food sustainably. These methods are not only good for the land, but they can also help reduce the need for chemicals and other inputs. By working with nature instead of trying to control it, farmers can build a healthy, resilient system that supports both people and the environment. The idea of working with nature extends beyond the farm. It can be applied to how we live in cities and towns, how we use resources, and how we interact with the world around us. If we learn to observe, respect, and work alongside the land, we can create systems that are more sustainable and more in tune with the Earth's natural rhythms. The key is to remember that nature is not something we can control. It is a force to be worked with. When we take the time to understand it, and we make choices that align with its natural processes, we can create systems that thrive. It is not about forcing the land to bend to our will, but about finding ways to work together in balance. The Earth has always offered everything we need. If we learn to listen, it will continue to do so. Nature is full of patterns. Everywhere you look, you can find shapes and forms that repeat, twist, and spiral. Some people see these patterns as more than just the way things are. They believe these shapes and designs are part of a divine order, a proof of a higher intelligence that shapes the world. Sacred geometry is the term used to describe these patterns. It connects the natural world to something bigger, something spiritual. From the spiral of a shell to the branching of a tree, sacred geometry is seen as a language that describes the structure of the universe. One of the most famous patterns in nature is the spiral. Spirals are everywhere. Look at a snail shell. and you'll see a perfect spiral. The way galaxies form also follows a spiral pattern. In plants, the arrangement of leaves or the seeds in a sunflower follows a spiral shape. This repeating form is not just a coincidence. Many people believe it is a sign of balance and harmony in nature. In sacred geometry, spirals are seen as a symbol of life's cycle. They represent growth, expansion, and the unfolding of the universe. Each curve in the spiral is connected to the next, showing how everything in the world is linked together. The Fibonacci sequence is closely tied to the spiral. This is a series of numbers where each number is the sum of the two before it, and when you plot these numbers in a spiral, you get a pattern that appears in nature over and over again. Fractals are another example of sacred geometry in nature. A fractal is a shape that looks the same, no matter how much you zoom in or out. Think of the branches of a tree. When you look at the main trunk, you can see that it branches out in smaller versions of itself. As you move down the tree, the branches keep repeating the same pattern. This repetition happens in many places in nature, from the way rivers branch out into smaller streams to the way snowflakes form. Fractals are all about self-similarity, where smaller parts of a shape resemble the whole. In sacred geometry, fractals are thought to represent the infinite and the divine order of the universe. They are a way of seeing how life continues to repeat and renew itself. Fractals show how small details can reflect larger patterns, which is a theme that can be found in many spiritual traditions. Another important shape in sacred geometry is the golden ratio. This is a special number, often called Phi 1.618, that appears in many natural forms. When something grows or develops according to the golden ratio, the parts of it are in a proportion that's considered perfect. You can see the golden ratio in the pattern of a nautilus shell, where the spiral follows this precise mathematical proportion. The same ratio shows up in the way pine cones and pineapples grow, where the spiral of the seeds follows the golden ratio. Even the branches of some trees grow in patterns that can be described by the golden ratio. In art and architecture, the golden ratio has been used to create beautiful and balanced designs for centuries. Many people believe that the golden ratio is a reflection of divine design, a perfect pattern that connects the natural world to something higher. These patterns aren't just about symmetry or beauty, they're also about the way life is organized. For example, the way flowers grow follows specific patterns of sacred geometry. The petals of many flowers form spirals, and these spirals follow the Fibonacci sequence. Sunflowers, daisies, and lilies are just a few examples of plants that display this pattern. The seeds in a sunflower head grow in spirals, and the number of spirals often follows Fibonacci's numbers. This pattern ensures that the seeds are arranged in the most efficient way possible for growth. It's a perfect example of how sacred geometry works in nature to help life thrive. The same patterns can be seen in the way animals are built. The human body, for example, follows many principles of sacred geometry. The proportions of the body, from the length of the limbs to the shape of the face, can be described by the golden ratio. Even the bones in your hand, when measured, follow the Fibonacci sequence. The number of bones in each section of your fingers corresponds to the numbers in this sequence. This suggests that the same patterns that appear in nature also shape our own bodies, connecting us to the natural world in a deep and profound way. Sacred geometry also shows up in the way the earth and sky are organized. The way the Earth's landmasses are arranged in relation to one another, for instance, follows geometric principles. The Earth's continents are not placed randomly but fit together in ways that suggest there is a hidden order to the planet. Some people believe that the alignment of certain land features, such as mountains and rivers, follows sacred geometry patterns, as if the Earth itself is a giant expression of divine design. The stars and planets also display sacred geometry. The orbits of planets are not perfectly round but elliptical, following a pattern that can be explained by geometry. The distances between planets and the way they move through space follow geometric principles that are found in nature. The way galaxies spiral and the arrangement of stars in the night sky often follow the same patterns that appear on Earth. These cosmic patterns remind people that the universe is connected by a deeper order, one that goes beyond our understanding. Many ancient cultures recognized these patterns and saw them as signs of a divine intelligence. The Egyptians, for example, used sacred geometry in the design of their pyramids. The proportions of the pyramids are based on geometric principles, and their alignment with the stars suggests that the builders had a deep understanding of these patterns. The Greeks also studied sacred geometry, with philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato exploring the connection between mathematics, nature, and the divine. The famous philosopher Pythagoras believed that the world was built on numbers, and he saw geometry as a way to understand the universe's hidden truths. The connection between sacred geometry and spirituality is strong. Many people believe that by studying the patterns in nature, they can gain a deeper understanding of the universe and their place in it. The fractals, spirals, and ratios that appear in nature are seen as evidence of a larger plan, a divine design that connects everything in the world. Whether it's the spiral of a galaxy or the shape of a flower, sacred geometry is seen as a way to understand the interconnectedness of all life. The belief is that these patterns are not just random but a part of a divine blueprint that governs the universe, offering a glimpse into something greater than what we can see with our eyes. Oral storytelling has been the heart of communication long before writing took form. It's the way knowledge, myth, and memory have passed through generations. Before books, before printed words, people gathered around fires or in homes, sharing stories by word of mouth. These stories were more than just entertainment. They were how a culture remembered its past, shared lessons, and kept the knowledge of survival alive. Through oral storytelling, people connected to the land, their ancestors, and each other. The key to oral storytelling is in its delivery. It's not about reading from a page, but telling a story in such a way that the listener is drawn in, feeling like they are part of the experience. The voice is everything. A storyteller can weave the sounds of the world into their words. The way they speak creates images in the mind. It is like painting with sound. A good storyteller uses rhythm, pauses, and tone to shape the experience. When a storyteller speaks of a forest, the listener doesn't just hear the words, they hear the rustling of leaves, the crackling of the fire, the feel of the wind. Myths are often the cornerstone of oral traditions. These stories carry lessons. They explain why the sun rises and sets, why the seasons change, or why certain animals behave in a certain way. They give the listener a sense of understanding, even if the story is fantastical. For example, many cultures tell stories of the trickster, like the coyote in Native American folklore. The trickster might cause trouble, but their actions often lead to important lessons. They teach about consequences, cleverness, or resilience. These stories were not meant to be literal, but symbolic. They taught values in a way that was easy to remember, because they were wrapped in an entertaining and dramatic package. Passing knowledge through oral storytelling also means passing on practical skills. Elders in a community would pass down the knowledge of hunting, farming, or healing through stories. These were lessons wrapped in personal experiences or myths. A young person would hear the story of a successful hunt, not as a list of steps, but as an adventure. What happened before, during, and after. The emotions of the hunt, the excitement, the fear, the pride. It all came with the story. Through this, the younger generation learned not just the how, but the why of survival. Take, for example, a story about planting crops. An elder might recount a time when they struggled to grow enough food. They might tell of the times when the weather was unkind, or the crops didn't take root. They would speak of the trials, but also of the hope. As they told their tale, they would share the techniques they learned over time, how to read the soil, how to watch the sky for signs of rain, how to tell when the earth was ready for planting. This knowledge wasn't simply handed down in a dry list of instructions. It was learned through the experience of the elder and passed on through the emotions and events of their story. The listener could feel the struggle, and that would help them learn how to respond when they faced a similar challenge. Sometimes the stories would shift as they were told, depending on the audience. A young child would hear a simpler version focusing on the basic lessons. An elder, however, might tell a more complicated version, including the deeper meanings. These layers allowed the same story to teach lessons to both the young and old, regardless of their life experience. It's a way of keeping the story alive, adapting it as needed. The storyteller's role was to read their audience and adjust the story accordingly. For the child, a story about survival might focus on the safety of the group, but for the elder, It might speak more to the connection between generations and the cyclical nature of life and death. Memory also plays a central role in oral storytelling. The storyteller often doesn't have notes to rely on. They remember the key points, the flow of the story, and the moments that bring emotion, but they also remember the details that make the story real. The crackling of the fire, the smell of the earth, the taste of a berry fresh from the bush. These sensory details help anchor the story in the listener's mind. They make the story feel alive, like it's happening right now, rather than something from long ago. By drawing on their senses, the storyteller makes the experience more vivid, making it easier for the listener to remember. Stories also evolve over time. They are not static. Each time a storyteller shares a tale, they might add new details or shift the emphasis. A story about a great battle might change depending on how the teller feels that day. One day, the focus might be on the bravery of the warriors. The next, it might be on the wisdom of the leader. This fluidity is part of what keeps oral storytelling alive. It's not a fixed record, but a living tradition. And with each telling, the story is subtly reshaped by the storyteller's voice, the audience's reactions, and the changes in the world around them. The power of oral storytelling lies in the connections it fosters. People gather together to listen, to learn, and to share. It creates a sense of belonging, a shared experience. When a story is told, it becomes part of the community, passed from one person to the next. This passing of stories builds bonds between generations, linking people who may never meet but are still connected through the tales they share. It is how the past stays alive. The stories of ancestors aren't just about the things they did, but about the way they saw the world, the values they held, and the lessons they learned. For those who hear these stories, there's a feeling of continuity. The world changes, but the stories remain the same. When a grandparent tells a tale, it's not just about the events of the past, it's about understanding how those events connect to the present. The listener can see themselves in the story, recognizing that they too will have their own experiences, which may one day become stories to share. It is a way of passing on wisdom without imposing it. The listener has the opportunity to interpret, to reflect, and to learn in their own time. A good storyteller doesn't just repeat a tale, they live it. They use their body to act out parts, their voice to express the emotion. They make the listener feel as if they too are walking through the story. This can make the knowledge being passed on much more memorable. If a person can see the elder's face as they describe a moment of joy, or feel the weight of sadness in their voice, the lesson becomes more than just an idea. It becomes a personal experience. It becomes part of the listener's story as well. Every culture has its stories, its myths, and its memories passed through this oral tradition. These stories are not just the past, they are a way of staying connected to the world. Through oral storytelling, a community passes not just information, but a way of life. The rhythm of the tale, the sound of the voice, the atmosphere of the space, all these things work together to create something greater than just words. They create a shared experience that ties people together, creating a common understanding of the world and their place in it. Eldership is about respect and care for those who have lived through years of experience. In many societies, older people are often seen as less useful or out of touch. They are pushed aside and their wisdom overlooked. But this view is short-sighted. The knowledge and perspective that older people hold are valuable resources, essential for understanding our past and shaping the future. Elders carry a depth of understanding that comes from years of living. They have experienced changes in the world, seen different seasons of life, and made mistakes that taught them important lessons. They have stories to tell, not just about events, but about how to live. Their wisdom is built on trials, errors, successes, and observations that younger generations can't yet understand. The wisdom of an elder is not just about knowing facts, it's about knowing how to make sense of those facts in ways that guide decisions. For example, an elder who has lived through hard times can teach younger people how to face challenges with resilience. They know that nothing lasts forever, whether it's difficulty or ease, and they can offer advice on how to hold steady when the world shifts. In many cultures, elders were once seen as the heart of the community. They were the ones who shared knowledge, settled disputes, and gave guidance. Younger people would seek them out for advice, knowing they carried the wisdom of ages. These elders were respected figures, not because of their age alone, but because they had proven their worth through the years. This approach helped build strong communities where everyone, young and old, had a role to play. The elder was seen as a guide, not as someone to be pushed aside. The relationship between younger and older people was one of mutual respect, not one of dismissal or avoidance. As the world has changed, the role of elders has shifted. In some places, youth is worshipped, and older generations are seen as burdens rather than assets. The emphasis is on new ideas and fresh energy, with little room for the lessons that come from lived experience. Young people are encouraged to look forward, often at the cost of looking back. This can result in a society that moves too quickly, without grounding itself in the wisdom of the past. Take the example of a family farm. The older generation may have spent decades learning how to work the land. They know which crops grow best in the soil, how to read the weather, and how to deal with problems like pests or drought. Their knowledge is passed down, generation to generation. But if society disregards that knowledge, the younger generation might struggle when faced with challenges that the older generation has already solved. Without the wisdom of the elders, the younger generation may make decisions that don't take the long view into account. Elders have a way of understanding what might seem like a small issue now, but can become a larger problem later on. Their ability to see patterns over time is invaluable, and we risk losing that if we disregard them. Elders also offer a unique perspective on change. They have seen what works and what doesn't. In a world that is constantly changing, this perspective is essential. The older generation can share lessons on what has been tried before, saving the younger generation from repeating mistakes. For instance, an elder who has seen various political movements rise and fall might offer a perspective on how to approach social change with patience and careful planning. Their experience can act as a guide when navigating the noise of a fast-paced world. The wisdom of elders goes beyond just the practical. They also carry the emotional and moral lessons that are necessary to live well. They have seen people struggle with love, loss, and family, and they know what it takes to stay true to one's values in the face of hardship. Their advice is often rooted in emotional intelligence, which is honed over time. For example, an elder may tell a younger person to take the time to nurture relationships rather than focus only on career or success. They understand that life is about balance, something that can be easy to forget when the world pressures people to always push forward. In many cases, the older generation is seen as a repository of family and cultural history. They are the living record of traditions, customs, and beliefs. Through their stories, they pass on the values that shape a community. These stories are not just entertainment, they are lessons about what has worked in the past, what has failed, and what has been learned. Without these stories, younger generations lose touch with their roots. The older generation plays a key role in keeping the culture alive. If we marginalize them, we risk losing this connection. The act of valuing elders doesn't just benefit the young, it strengthens the entire community. Elders who are respected feel needed and valued, and this sense of purpose can improve their quality of life. When elders are given the opportunity to share their wisdom, they feel more connected to the world around them. It creates a sense of continuity between the generations, which is important for social cohesion. When everyone in a community knows they have something to offer, it builds mutual respect. This relationship doesn't need to be complex. It can be as simple as listening. Younger people can learn from elders by taking the time to ask questions, sit down for a conversation, or just spend time together. It doesn't always have to be about advice. Sometimes the simple act of hearing someone's story is enough. Elders don't always need to teach directly. Their example can be enough to guide others. An elder who lives with patience, kindness, and integrity offers a model for others to follow. In a world that values speed and progress, slowing down to listen to an elder can seem out of place. But it's these slower, quieter moments that often contain the most wisdom. The faster the world moves, the more we need to anchor ourselves in the lessons of the past. Elders can be the anchors that help us stay steady, even when everything else feels uncertain. The value of elders is clear. They carry with them the lessons of history, the understanding of human nature, and the knowledge of how to live well, we need to listen to them, not push them aside. When we treat elders with the respect they deserve, we not only honor them but we also ensure that their wisdom continues to guide future generations. The relationship between young and old should not be one of division, but one of connection, where each generation values the other and learns from their shared experiences. In doing so, we build a stronger, wiser community. Initiation rites are traditions that mark the passage from childhood into adulthood. These rites are meant to help young people understand their new roles and responsibilities in society. They often involve trials, rituals, and challenges that test physical, mental, and emotional strength. These rites can vary greatly from culture to culture, but they all share the common goal of preparing the individual for the responsibilities of adulthood. In many indigenous cultures, initiation rites are seen as a crucial part of growing up. For example, among the Maasai people of East Africa, young boys go through a rite of passage called circumcision. This ceremony marks their transition from boyhood to manhood. The boy is expected to endure pain without showing fear. The ritual is followed by a period of seclusion, where the boys are taught the responsibilities of being men in their community. They learn about leadership, courage, and wisdom. The Maasai consider this rite a necessary step for boys to become respected members of society. In other parts of the world, initiation rites might involve tests of endurance or bravery. Among the Xhosa people in South Africa, boys go through a process of circumcision, followed by a period of seclusion, where they are taught lessons about their community and culture. During this time, the boys are expected to show maturity, self-discipline, and readiness to assume their adult roles. These rituals are important because they prepare the young person for the social expectations of adulthood. In some cultures, the initiation rites are not just about physical challenges, but also about connecting with the spiritual world. Among the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, young people go through a series of rituals that involve connecting with the land and the spirits of their ancestors. These rites often involve vision quests, where the young person is sent alone into the wilderness to find a spiritual guide or to receive guidance from the spirits. The goal is for the young person to gain wisdom and understanding about their place in the world and their responsibilities to the community. In the Amazon rainforest, some indigenous tribes practice initiation rituals that involve challenging and dangerous experiences. Young people are often sent on long journeys through the forest, where they must navigate through the wilderness, face wild animals, and survive using their skills. The trials are meant to teach survival skills, but they also prepare the young person for the responsibilities of adulthood, such as hunting, leadership, and providing for the community. In other societies, initiation rites are not always about physical challenges, but about gaining knowledge and wisdom. Among the Native American tribes, such as the Lakota Sioux, initiation often involves vision quests and ceremonies. Young men and women are sent into the wilderness for a period of fasting and solitude. During this time, they seek visions or messages that guide their life's purpose. These rites are meant to prepare them for their roles as leaders, providers, and protectors of the tribe. The teachings they receive during the quest help them understand the importance of respect, responsibility, and balance with nature. In modern times, initiation rites are less common, but they still exist in different forms. In many Western cultures, the transition to adulthood is marked by milestones like graduation, first jobs, or reaching the age of 18. These events are seen as important moments where young people are expected to take on more responsibility. For example, in some families, a young person might be given more freedom and responsibility, like a car, or the ability to make decisions about their future. These moments may not be as formal or ritualistic as in traditional cultures, but they still serve as markers for adulthood. In some cultures, the rite of passage is more of a communal event, involving the young person's family, friends, and community. The Jewish tradition of a bar mitzvah, or bat mitzvah, for example, marks a young person's coming of age. At the age of 13, a Jewish boy or girl is expected to take on the religious and social responsibilities of an adult. The ceremony is a celebration of this transition and marks the beginning of a new chapter in the young person's life. They are now expected to follow the commandments of their faith and take part in community rituals as an adult. Other rites of passage involve tests of character. In the United States, Some fraternities and sororities at universities have initiation rituals that test the young person's loyalty, strength, and commitment to the group. These rituals might involve physical challenges, group activities, or rituals that test the individual's ability to work as part of a team. While these types of initiation rites are not necessarily about preparing for adulthood in a traditional sense, they do teach values like teamwork, responsibility, and loyalty. In certain cultures, initiation is about learning specific skills that are essential for adulthood. For example, among the Inuit people of the Arctic, young people are taught survival skills from an early age. The initiation into adulthood often involves learning how to hunt, fish, and navigate the harsh environment. The young person must prove their ability to provide for themselves and others. This rite of passage is practical, as well as symbolic, as it marks the young person's readiness to contribute to their community and take on adult roles. In some parts of the world, initiation rites focus on the emotional and psychological challenges of growing up. For example, the rite of passage among some Pacific Islander cultures involves spending time away from the family, often in the company of elders, where the young person learns about family responsibilities, community roles, and the cultural values they must uphold. These ceremonies are meant to prepare the young person for the emotional weight of adulthood and help them understand the importance of their role in maintaining the well-being of their community. Initiation rites help young people understand that growing up is not just about becoming physically mature, it is about accepting new responsibilities, learning to contribute to the community, and understanding the roles one must play in the larger social structure. These rites, whether they involve physical challenges, spiritual quests, or community rituals, serve as a way of marking the passage from childhood to adulthood. They remind the young person that their life is part of a greater whole, and that their actions, wisdom, and contributions will help shape the future of their society. For many young people, these rites provide a sense of purpose and direction. They give them the tools they need to navigate adulthood and face the challenges of life with confidence. By undergoing trials, rituals, and responsibilities, young people come to understand their place in the world and their connection to the people around them. In many communities, decisions are made not by one person but by the group. This is called communal decision-making. Instead of a single leader telling others what to do, people come together to discuss and agree on the best course of action. It's a way of sharing power, where everyone's voice matters. Consensus councils are a common way to make decisions in this system. These councils don't rush decisions. They take the time to listen to everyone, consider all points of view, and work toward a solution that everyone can support, even if they don't fully agree. In a consensus council, the goal is not to have one person or a small group decide everything. Rather, it's about finding common ground among everyone involved. The process starts with everyone being given a chance to speak. No one is ignored, and no one is cut off before they finish their thoughts. A leader, if there is one, simply guides the discussion, ensuring that everyone has an equal opportunity to share. They do not impose their opinion or push the group toward a specific decision. The focus is on listening and understanding, rather than arguing or debating. For example, imagine a small town that needs to decide on a new park design. Rather than having one person or a city council make the decision, the community holds a meeting. People from all walks of life come together: parents, young people, elders, and business owners. Each person shares their thoughts on what the park should include. Some want a playground for children, others want a garden for quiet reflection, and a few suggest areas for sports or exercise. Instead of voting on which idea is best, the group talks about how to blend everyone's needs. They may compromise, agreeing to build a playground and a garden, and later adding exercise equipment once there's enough support. This process takes time, but it means that everyone's opinion is considered and valued. The process of reaching consensus is not always quick or easy. Sometimes people have strong opinions, and it can be hard to find common ground. There might be disagreements, but in a consensus system, the goal is to keep talking until a solution is found that works for everyone. It's not about forcing someone to accept something they don't want, but rather finding a way that everyone can live with. The discussions can be long, but they are productive because they build a shared understanding and respect. When disagreements arise, people in a consensus council don't just argue their points. They listen to the other side and try to understand why the other person feels the way they do. It's not about winning the argument, but about reaching a place of mutual understanding. For instance, if one person feels strongly about building a playground in the park while another wants to preserve open space for nature, both sides will listen to each other. They might find a compromise, such as creating a smaller playground or placing it in an area of the park that still allows space for nature. This process of negotiation helps strengthen the community by making people feel heard and respected. One of the benefits of consensus decision-making is that it can build stronger relationships within the community. When people work together to make decisions, they get to know each other better. They understand each other's values, priorities, and concerns. This can create a sense of solidarity and trust. When people feel like they have a stake in the outcome, they are more likely to support the decision, even if it wasn't exactly what they wanted. They can accept the decision because they were part of making it. Another advantage of this method is that it encourages collaboration rather than competition. In a traditional decision-making system, the person with the most power or the loudest voice may get their way. This can leave others feeling frustrated or ignored. In a consensus system, however, everyone has an equal opportunity to contribute, and the decision is made through cooperation. This can lead to solutions that are more creative and comprehensive, as all viewpoints are taken into account. Take, for example, a small business run by a group of people. Rather than one person making all the decisions about the business, the group gathers to discuss important matters, such as pricing, marketing, or product changes. They each share their ideas, and together they come to a decision that everyone supports. One person may have experience in marketing, another in product development, and another in finance. By combining their expertise, they can come up with better solutions than if one person tried to make all the decisions. This system also means that the business has a stronger sense of unity, as everyone feels invested in its success. In some communities, consensus decision-making also applies to conflict resolution. When a conflict arises between two or more people, the group doesn't just choose a side. Instead, the group comes together to help those involved find a solution. This could involve discussing the issues openly, allowing each person to express their feelings and concerns, and finding a way forward that both parties can agree on. This process often helps to heal relationships and restore trust between people, making the community stronger as a whole. There are challenges, of course, in communal decision-making. It can be time-consuming, especially in larger groups. It requires patience and a willingness to listen to others. Some people may become frustrated with the slower pace of consensus and want to push for a quicker decision. However, those involved must remind themselves that the goal is not to rush but to create a decision that everyone can stand behind. In some cases, if consensus cannot be reached, a group may use a process called consent to move forward. In consent-based decision-making, the group may agree to move forward with a decision if no one strongly objects to it. This is different from traditional voting because it does not rely on the majority. Instead, it seeks to find a solution that everyone can live with, even if not everyone is completely satisfied. It may not be perfect, but it is acceptable to everyone in the group. For instance, in a community decision about new rules for shared spaces, some people might want stricter guidelines, while others may feel the rules are too rigid. Instead of a vote, the group talks through the issues. They may decide on a middle ground, such as creating rules that allow for flexibility but also set clear boundaries. Even those who don't fully agree with the rules may accept them because the process was fair and everyone had a chance to speak. In communal decision-making, the emphasis is on cooperation rather than domination. People are not just working toward a solution, they are working toward understanding. This approach builds connections between individuals and fosters a sense of belonging. People are not simply subjects to a leader's will, but active participants in the decisions that affect their lives. It's a way of ensuring that everyone has a voice and that the community as a whole can move forward together. Song and dance have long been used as tools for healing. From ancient rituals to modern therapy, rhythm, movement, and sound connect us to something deeper. These practices aren't just about entertainment, they are about restoring balance both inside the body and within communities. When people come together to sing and dance, they do more than perform a tradition. They create a space where healing can happen, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. In many cultures, song and dance have been used in rituals to mark important life events, birth, death, marriage, or transitions of any kind. These rituals help individuals and groups make sense of change and move through it. The rhythm of the drum, the flow of the body, and the harmony of voices bring people into alignment with the earth, with each other, and with themselves. For example, a drum circle might form around someone going through a tough time. The steady beat of the drums sets a rhythm, grounding the group. The dancer's movement expresses feelings that words can't. Together, the song and dance allow everyone to release what they carry, whether it's grief, joy, or confusion. Rhythm is one of the most powerful aspects of song and dance. It has the ability to shift our internal state. When we hear a steady beat, the body often responds by moving to it. Our heart rate can sync with the rhythm, and we feel more grounded and focused. This is why so many healing traditions use rhythmic instruments, like drums or rattles. The heartbeat of a drum creates a connection between the individual and the group. It helps people feel part of something bigger than themselves. In therapeutic settings, rhythm can help calm anxiety, reduce stress, and encourage relaxation. Dance, too, has a profound effect on the body. It's not just about physical movement, it's about expression and connection. When we dance, we often release emotions that are stored deep inside. The movement of the body becomes a way to speak without words. This is particularly important in healing work, where sometimes people find it difficult to express their pain, trauma, or joy. Dance opens the door to emotional release, which is a necessary part of healing. In some therapeutic settings, dance is used to help people process trauma by allowing them to move through their emotions rather than holding them in. Singing has its own set of benefits. The act of singing releases endorphins, which are the body's natural mood elevators. When people sing together, the shared energy creates a bond that's hard to replicate in other ways. The vibrations from the voice are also therapeutic. Sound therapy, which often uses singing bowls, gongs, or tuning forks, shows how sound can affect the body on a cellular level. Our bodies resonate with certain frequencies, and when we sing or hear specific notes, we can feel the vibrations moving through us. This is why sound has been used for centuries in healing practices across the world. There is a deep connection between song, dance, and social bonding. In many indigenous cultures, song and dance are communal activities. When people gather to sing or dance, they not only connect with each other, but also strengthen their sense of community. This bonding is essential for emotional well-being. In fact, isolation can be one of the biggest factors in illness, both mentally and physically. Social connection, on the other hand, is healing. It creates a sense of belonging and support, which is why rituals that involve song and dance are so powerful. They unite people in a shared experience, helping them feel understood and supported. The healing power of song and dance is also seen in the way they address both body and mind. When we move and sing, we engage both our physical and mental selves. This combined approach can be particularly effective for dealing with stress or trauma. Movement allows the body to release tension, while sound can help quiet the mind. Together, these practices help to rewire our responses to stress, making it easier to manage emotions and physical discomfort. A simple example is the use of dance in treating PTSD. Many survivors of trauma struggle with feelings of being disconnected from their bodies. Dance, especially free-form dance, allows individuals to reconnect with themselves. It helps them feel grounded and present. The act of moving freely in response to music offers a sense of control, something that trauma often takes away. It also provides a way to express things that might be too difficult to say. In this way, song and dance can help people move past the limitations of verbal communication. The benefits are not limited to the emotional. Song and dance can improve physical health as well. Dance, for example, is a great cardiovascular workout. It helps with coordination, flexibility, and strength. It also improves circulation, which can help the body heal itself. Singing has its own set of physical benefits. It can improve lung capacity, posture, and even boost the immune system. The act of singing deeply, especially when using the diaphragm, encourages the body to take in more oxygen, which has a calming effect. This is one reason why many healing traditions incorporate deep, rhythmic breathing as part of the practice. Children, too, benefit from song and dance. In many cultures, children learn about their heritage through songs, which are often passed down through generations. These songs not only teach children about their history and culture, but also help with language development and memory. Dance helps children with motor skills, coordination, and socialization. In a group, children learn how to work together and support each other, building relationships in a fun and active way. This early connection to music and movement can have long-lasting benefits for emotional health. When we bring song and dance into our daily lives, we tap into something ancient and powerful. It's not just about performing or being entertained. It's about connecting with ourselves and others in ways that words alone cannot. It's about allowing the body and mind to work together in harmony, using rhythm, sound, and movement to restore balance and heal. Whether it's in a healing ceremony, a casual dance with friends, or simply singing along to a favorite song, we are all participating in a practice that has been used for centuries to heal and bond. Song and dance aren't just about entertainment or tradition. They are powerful tools for health and healing, offering a way to connect with our bodies, our communities, and the world around us. By tapping into these practices, we allow ourselves to heal, to grow, and to be part of something much bigger than ourselves. Through rhythm, movement, and sound, we find a deeper connection to both our inner selves and to each other. Kinship is often thought of as something that comes through blood. Family, in this sense, is made up of people related by birth, people who share the same genetic ties, but many cultures and communities have a different view of kinship. They see it as something that stretches far beyond family by blood. Neighbors, clans, and even strangers can be treated as extended family. In these communities, people are connected not just by biology, but by shared experiences, mutual care, and respect. In many societies, the idea of family is not limited to those who live under the same roof or share the same last name. Instead, it extends to the wider community. In some African cultures, for example, people refer to everyone in the village as brother or sister, regardless of whether they are related by blood. The extended family network in these communities is built on a foundation of mutual responsibility and support. A neighbor is not just someone who lives nearby, they are someone with whom you share in life's joys and struggles. If a child gets sick, it is not only the parents who care for the child, but the whole village. If someone loses a loved one, the entire community gathers to mourn and offer comfort. These actions are not driven by obligation, but by a sense of kinship that goes beyond blood ties. This broader sense of family can also be seen in the practices of some Native American tribes. The concept of the extended family is central to their way of life. In many tribes, the role of an elder is not restricted to one's biological grandparents, but includes other respected members of the community. Elders play a key role in guiding the younger generations, teaching them cultural traditions, and offering wisdom. The extended family also includes a strong relationship with the land, which is considered a kinship that ties people together. Everyone in the community, whether biologically related or not, is responsible for caring for the land and its resources. It is a collective effort that sustains everyone. In South Asia, the concept of kinship is often extended to neighbors and close friends. In some rural areas, families often live together in close-knit groups, and the lines between family and neighbors can be very blurry. A neighbor's child is seen as one of your own. They might eat at your table, play with your children, and seek guidance from you. In return, you offer the same support. When someone needs help, they turn to their extended family, which might include their neighbors, friends, and even acquaintances. The sense of duty towards others is rooted deeply in the belief that one's life is tied to the community, and by helping others, you are also helping yourself. A person's well-being is seen as interconnected with the well-being of everyone around them. In many Latin American cultures, the concept of familia is not just restricted to those with shared DNA. In these communities, friends and even distant acquaintances are often treated like family. This can be seen in the practice of hosting large gatherings or celebrations, where people from all walks of life come together, even if they are not directly related. At these events, guests are welcomed as though they were relatives. In such communities, you may find that a person's sense of belonging is tied to the people they care for, rather than their biological lineage. There are also examples of kinship beyond blood in modern urban environments, where people may not be related by blood, but create strong bonds through shared experiences. In big cities, where people often live far from their extended families, friendships can take on the role of family. Neighbors become like family, helping each other with errands, supporting one another through difficult times, and celebrating achievements together. In these communities, the sense of belonging comes not from genetics, but from shared experiences, trust, and kindness. People form their own networks of support, and these connections become just as meaningful as those formed through blood relations. In some cases, people even extend kinship to strangers. This is common in many places where hospitality is a deeply held value. In certain Middle Eastern countries, for example, guests are treated with the utmost respect and care. When a stranger comes to your home, they are treated as family, meals are shared, and the stranger's needs are met without question. The idea is that by helping others, you are creating bonds that transcend blood ties and extend into the realm of shared humanity. Even in the modern world, where people may not always know their neighbors or interact with strangers in the same way, this concept of hospitality still holds a place in many cultures. The idea of treating strangers as family also plays out in times of crisis. When natural disasters strike, people often come together to help each other, even when they have no familial ties to those they are helping. In many communities, it is common for neighbors to open their homes to others who have lost their own, offering shelter and food to those in need. These acts of kindness are based on a deep understanding that in moments of hardship, we all share a common humanity. We may not be connected by blood, but in times of crisis, we are bound together by the need to help one another. The concept of kinship beyond blood is also present in the world of volunteerism and charitable work. Many people dedicate their time and resources to helping those they have no personal connection with, whether it's helping in a soup kitchen, working with refugees, or supporting a community project. People form bonds with those they serve. In these cases, kinship is not about shared genetics or even close personal relationships, but about the shared human experience and the responsibility we have to one another. By helping others, we create a sense of connection that goes beyond the limitations of family ties. In many cultures, the idea of kinship is about more than just mutual care. It also involves a sense of accountability. When someone is treated like family, they are expected to act with a certain level of responsibility. If a neighbor or friend is struggling, it is the community's duty to step in and help them. This sense of accountability extends to the younger members of the community, who are taught the importance of caring for others. In these settings, relationships are built on the understanding that everyone has a role to play in maintaining the well-being of the group. In all of these examples, kinship is defined not by biology, but by shared values, experiences, and mutual support. The idea that a person is more than just their blood relatives is a powerful one. It suggests that the ties that bind us are not just those of family, but also those of community care and shared humanity. In these communities, the concept of family is stretched to include not just those who are related by birth, but those who share in the work of life and the care of one another. By treating neighbors, clans, and even strangers as family, we create a stronger, more connected world. Contemplative silence is not simply the absence of sound, it is a space where the mind slows down and clarity begins to emerge. In a world full of noise, voices, cars, phones, and distractions, silence offers an opportunity to pause. It is in this pause that the mind can process, reflect, and find direction. When you sit in silence, you allow the clutter of the day to fade away. This is not about forcing thoughts to disappear, but about creating room for insight to enter naturally. The act of sitting still in silence often feels strange at first. The mind races with thoughts, to-do lists, and worries, but with practice, the stillness becomes a refuge. In those moments of quiet, you might start to notice things you usually overlook. The way light shifts through the room, the sound of your breath, the subtle hum of life around you. These details, often drowned out by daily life, become clearer in silence. They help ground you in the present moment. When you sit quietly, the mind is no longer rushing forward or dwelling on the past. It simply is. Sitting in stillness doesn't require special training. Anyone can do it, but it does require patience. The goal isn't to empty the mind entirely, but to create space where thoughts can arise without the need to act on them. It's about observing your thoughts, not judging them. In this way, you can start to understand them better. When a thought comes, you simply notice it. You don't have to hold on to it or push it away, just let it be there and then let it go, like a cloud passing in the sky. Over time, this practice can give you a greater sense of control over your mind. Imagine sitting by a quiet river. You don't need to do anything, you just watch the water flow. Your thoughts are like that river, constantly moving. But when you sit in silence, you're able to step back and watch the flow, instead of being swept along with it. In this space you can find calm, the constant chatter of the mind settles, and you start to notice things that were always there but never fully seen. Silence can also bring a deeper connection to the body. When the mind quiets, the body responds. You become more aware of how you sit, the pressure of the ground beneath you, the rise and fall of your chest. You might feel tension that you hadn't noticed before, or you might experience a deeper sense of relaxation. This connection to the body in stillness helps to release physical and mental strain. It's a way to check in with yourself, to make sure you're not carrying unnecessary burdens. When you sit in silence, you create space for reflection. The mind begins to wander, and it is in this wandering that clarity often arises. It is easy to overlook the small answers we already have, because we are too busy searching for something else. But in silence, you may discover that the answers you've been looking for are already within you. You might realize something about a situation that had previously felt confusing or unclear. Sometimes the clarity comes in small moments, a realization about a conversation, a shift in perspective on a problem. It's like looking at a map. When the clutter of the world fades away, the path becomes easier to see. You may find that ideas come to you in silence, not in a forced thinking hard way, but in a gentle, natural flow. Sometimes the mind needs space to relax before it can solve problems. When you stop pushing, the answers can surface on their own. This is often how creative ideas emerge. It's like giving the mind a moment to breathe, allowing it to return to its natural state of problem solving and insight. Sitting in silence also creates room for deeper listening, not just to your own thoughts, but to the world around you. In a quiet space, the sounds of nature become more vivid. The wind in the trees, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves. These sounds often go unnoticed when the mind is full of distractions, but in silence, you can tune into these subtle cues. It is as if the world itself speaks to you, offering messages that might have been missed in the noise of everyday life. Listening in this way deepens your connection to the environment. It helps you feel more rooted in the present moment, more attuned to the rhythm of the world. Contemplative silence is also a space for deeper understanding. It's not just about being still, it's about creating an environment where the mind can reflect on what it knows. It's an opportunity to integrate the lessons of the day, the experiences of the past, and the hopes for the future. Sitting in silence gives the mind a chance to make sense of things, to understand them on a deeper level. It's a kind of mental processing that allows everything to fall into place. Sometimes silence brings up discomfort. The mind might resist because it's used to constant stimulation, but this discomfort is a natural part of the process. It's like stretching a muscle. The tension and resistance are part of what helps the mind grow stronger and more focused. Over time, the discomfort fades, and silence becomes more comfortable, more peaceful. It is no longer a space to fear, but one to embrace. When you sit in stillness, you also learn to let go. You let go of the need to control everything, of the need to constantly be doing. You allow yourself to simply be, without any expectations or pressures. This act of surrender can bring a deep sense of peace. It is a reminder that we don't always need to act or speak to feel connected to the world. Sometimes simply being present is enough. In daily life, we often rush from one thing to the next. We're constantly occupied, our attention divided. Sitting in silence is a way to break that cycle. It's a reminder that there is value in stillness. It allows us to step out of the hustle and into a place of clarity. In those quiet moments, the noise of the world becomes distant. The chaos, the rush, the constant striving, all of it fades away, and you are left with just the present moment. When practiced regularly, contemplative silence can change the way you approach life. It teaches patience, self-awareness, and presence. It helps you find clarity in the midst of confusion and insight when you need it most. It's not a quick fix or a solution to all problems, but it is a way of returning to yourself, of reconnecting with the simplicity of the world around you. In silence, you find not just peace but a deeper understanding of the world and your place within it. Dreams have always been seen as a way to connect with something deeper within us. They are more than just random images or thoughts that pop up while we sleep. Many cultures and belief systems view dreams as a form of guidance, either from the subconscious mind or from a spiritual source. To understand dreams, we need to look beyond the surface and see what they are telling us about ourselves, our emotions, and our lives. In ancient times, people often believed that dreams were messages from the gods or from spirits. Shamans, healers, and spiritual leaders would interpret dreams to guide decisions or offer insights into health, relationships, and the future. Even today, many people still turn to their dreams for wisdom. The idea is simple. When we sleep, our conscious mind takes a break, and the subconscious is free to communicate. What we see and feel in dreams can reveal truths that we may not be fully aware of when we are awake. Take, for example, the common dream of flying. For some, this dream might feel exhilarating, but for others, it might bring feelings of fear. Flying in a dream can represent a desire for freedom or escape. It can also symbolize a sense of control or a need to rise above a situation. If the dream is positive, it could be a reminder that you have the ability to overcome challenges in your life. But if the dream feels unsettling, it might be pointing to unresolved fears or anxieties. In either case, the dream is not random. It is offering insight into your emotional state or your approach to life. Another common dream is being chased. This can be unsettling, and it often leaves people wondering what it means. In many cases, being chased in a dream represents something you are avoiding in waking life. It might be a problem, a person, or a situation that you're not facing head-on. The dream is urging you to confront what you are running from. It can also indicate feelings of being overwhelmed or out of control. If the dream is about being chased by a person or animal, the specific characteristics of the pursuer can offer further clues. For example, if you're running from a wolf, it might symbolize an aspect of your own personality that feels wild or uncontrollable. If the pursuer is a faceless figure, it could represent an unknown fear or worry that you haven't fully acknowledged. Dreams often use symbols, and the meaning of these symbols can vary depending on the context. For instance, water in a dream often represents emotions. Calm water may indicate peace and emotional balance, while rough water could suggest turbulent feelings or emotional conflict. A dream about a house can have many meanings as well. The house often symbolizes the self or the mind. If you dream of a well-kept home, it might reflect a sense of order and control in your life. A house in disrepair, on the other hand, could indicate emotional or mental stress. The rooms in the house might also represent different areas of your life, such as your career, family, or personal relationships, and the state of these rooms could give you insight into how you're managing those areas. Sometimes dreams are more straightforward, addressing concerns we may have in our waking life. If you are stressed about an upcoming presentation, you might dream of being in front of a crowd or unable to speak. This kind of dream is not necessarily a deep message, but rather a reflection of the worries and stresses you carry with you. Similarly, if you are dealing with a difficult relationship, you might dream about that person either in a conflict or in a more positive situation. These dreams help you process the emotions tied to these concerns and allow you to face them in a safe space. However, not all dreams are directly tied to what is happening in our lives. Some people believe that dreams are a form of guidance from a higher power or from the universe itself. For example, you might dream of a particular animal that holds personal meaning, such as a hawk. In many cultures, hawks are seen as messengers, representing vision and insight. If you dream of a hawk, it could be a reminder to pay attention to your intuition or to take a higher perspective on a problem. In this way, dreams can serve as a guide, encouraging us to look beyond the obvious and consider deeper meanings. People also report receiving dreams that seem prophetic, offering glimpses into future events or situations. While some dismiss these dreams as mere coincidence, others believe they are glimpses of what is to come. Whether or not these dreams are truly prophetic is up for debate, but it's clear that they often reflect a sense of intuition or understanding about the direction our lives are taking. For instance, if you dream of an old friend whom you haven't seen in years, and then you run into them the next day, it might be a sign to reconnect or pay attention to the relationships in your life. The dream serves as a nudge towards something important that you might have overlooked. Even more mundane dreams can offer insight if we are open to them. The small things we see in our dreams, the objects, places, or people, might seem insignificant, but can hold clues to our mental or emotional state. A dream about losing a key might seem strange, but it could symbolize feelings of being locked out or unable to access something important in your life. A dream about being lost in a familiar place could point to confusion or a lack of direction in your waking life. Dreams are not always easy to interpret. Often they require self-reflection and a willingness to dig deeper into the meanings of the symbols and feelings they contain. Writing down your dreams as soon as you wake up can help you remember details and patterns that might reveal important messages. The more you pay attention to your dreams, the more you can understand what they are trying to tell you. Keeping a dream journal can help you track recurring themes, which might point to unresolved issues or areas of growth in your life. Sometimes dreams offer solutions to problems that seem unsolvable. This happens when the subconscious mind, free from the filters of our conscious thoughts, can see things more clearly. You might wake up with a sense of clarity about a situation that had been troubling you. In these cases, dreams are not just random or meaningless, but a way of processing information and finding answers that are already within us. Dreams also serve as a form of emotional release. If we've been holding on to anger, sadness, or fear, our dreams may allow us to release those emotions in a safe way. The dream world gives us the space to express and explore feelings that we might be afraid or unable to deal with in our waking life. This is why people sometimes wake up from a dream feeling lighter, even if the dream itself was unsettling. No matter the type, dreams are powerful. They give us insight into the parts of ourselves that we may not always see clearly. Whether they come from the subconscious mind, a spiritual source, or a combination of both, they are worth paying attention to. By listening to what our dreams are telling us, we open ourselves to deeper understanding and a more connected way of living. Before books, screens, and written notes, people used other methods to store knowledge. One of the oldest and most powerful ways to do this is through memory palaces and oral mnemonics. These techniques let a person store large amounts of information without needing to write anything down or rely on modern technology. Instead, they use the mind's natural ability to visualize and remember. A memory palace is a method where you mentally place the information you want to remember in different parts of a familiar space, like your home. You imagine walking through that space, and as you move from room to room, you place pieces of information in different spots. The idea is that the more familiar the space is, the easier it will be to recall the information stored there. For example, you might place a list of grocery items in different rooms of your house. You might imagine eggs on your kitchen counter, apples on the couch in the living room, and bread near your front door. Later, when you need to remember the list, you walk through your house in your mind, retrieving each item as you pass its location. The key to making a memory palace work is the use of vivid imagery. The more detailed and unusual the image, the better it will stick in your mind. If you picture a giant loaf of bread standing near your door, it will be easier to recall than if you just imagine the word bread. The unusual and memorable images make the information more likely to stick in your long-term memory. This method can be used to store anything from lists of items to entire books of knowledge. Some people have trained themselves to memorize huge amounts of information using nothing but their memory palaces. Oral mnemonics are another way of storing knowledge. They rely on the power of rhythm, rhyme, and repetition to help people remember information. These tools have been used for centuries, especially in cultures with strong oral traditions. Before people had written records, oral mnemonics helped them pass down stories, histories, and important information from one generation to the next. In many ways, these techniques are the foundations of storytelling, poetry, and songs. One simple example of an oral mnemonic is the rhyme 30 days hath September. This rhyme helps people remember how many days are in each month. By associating each month with a simple line of rhyme, it becomes easier to recall the information when needed. Other types of oral mnemonics include acronyms, like the phrase PEMDAS to remember the order of operations in math, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. These memory techniques were not just used for practical information like grocery lists or math rules, they were also used to store deep cultural knowledge. In many ancient societies, stories, laws, and traditions were passed down orally, and mnemonic devices played a central role in keeping that information alive. In the ancient Greek world, for example, poets would memorize long epic poems like the Iliad and the Odyssey by breaking the story down into small sections and using oral techniques to remember the lines. They often used rhythm, rhyme, and repetition to help them remember the vast amounts of material. A similar approach is used in many African cultures, where griots, or storytellers, memorize entire histories and genealogies of their communities. In some cultures, oral mnemonics were also used for learning religious texts. In India, for example, the Vedas, which are the oldest sacred texts in Hinduism, were passed down orally for thousands of years before they were written down. The texts were memorized by students who used oral techniques to ensure they did not forget the sacred teachings. This process involved repetition, singing the verses aloud, and associating the teachings with specific sounds and rhythms. It was a highly effective way to preserve knowledge in a time before written language. In today's world, we don't rely as heavily on memory palaces or oral mnemonics, but they can still be powerful tools for learning. They are especially useful when you need to memorize something quickly, or when you don't have access to paper or technology. For example, students preparing for exams often use these techniques to remember key facts or concepts. By turning a list of terms into a series of images placed in a memory palace, or by turning important facts into a catchy rhyme, the information becomes easier to recall when it's needed. One of the benefits of using memory palaces and oral mnemonics is that they work with the brain's natural abilities. Humans have an easier time remembering images and sounds than abstract concepts. When we tie information to something we can see or hear, it becomes more meaningful, and thus more memorable. This is why both of these techniques rely heavily on using imagery and sound. The more you practice using these tools, the better you get at it, and the more knowledge you can store in your mind. In some ways, memory palaces and oral mnemonics also teach us something about the nature of knowledge itself. They remind us that knowledge is not something that needs to be stored outside of ourselves. The brain has an incredible capacity to store and organize information. By using mental techniques, we can tap into that capacity and hold vast amounts of information without the need for paper, books, or screens. In this way, we are reminded that we have always had the ability to store knowledge within ourselves, even in times when technology did not exist. These techniques also bring us closer to the roots of learning. Before the printing press, before the internet, and before modern education, much of the world's knowledge was passed down orally or through the memory of individuals. The stories, lessons, and traditions that were passed down through generations were not stored in books, but in the minds of people who could remember and share them. Using memory palaces and oral mnemonics connects us to this ancient way of learning and remembering. While modern society often relies on technology to store and access knowledge, memory techniques offer a way to bring that knowledge back into the mind. They offer a way to challenge ourselves to remember things without the crutch of a device. Memory palaces help us tap into the brain's natural strengths, while oral mnemonics give us tools to organize and recall information easily. Whether it's for memorizing a speech, learning a new language, or simply remembering a shopping list, these ancient techniques are still relevant today. They remind us that the mind is capable of much more than we often give it credit for. By using memory palaces and oral mnemonics, we can unlock the full potential of our memory and store knowledge in a way that is both effective and enduring. Intuition is often seen as a feeling that doesn't have clear reasoning behind it. It's the hunch that guides us, the gut feeling that sometimes directs our actions, even when logic seems to suggest a different path. Intuition is not always based on facts or clear thinking, yet it plays a significant role in decision-making. It doesn't always look like traditional intelligence, but it is just as important. It's a type of intelligence that comes from deep within, from experience and understanding that can't always be put into words. Sometimes you'll find yourself in a situation where your mind says one thing, but your gut says another. Perhaps you meet someone, and without knowing why, you feel uneasy. Or you might walk into a room and feel that something is off, even when everything seems normal. This is intuition at work. It's a sense of knowing without conscious reasoning. It's not based on logic or analysis, but on a deeper, almost instinctual understanding of things. The key with intuition is to trust it, even when you can't explain it. Often people dismiss their gut feelings because they don't have a logical reason to back them up. But intuition is built from experiences, patterns, and senses that the mind has picked up over time. It's like a shortcut that skips the need for step-by-step analysis. For example, when a mother hears her baby cry in a crowded room, she doesn't think, "I wonder if that's my child." She just knows. It's a feeling that comes from years of paying attention to small details, from understanding the subtle cues that others might miss. Trusting your intuition doesn't mean ignoring logic entirely. Instead, it's about using both together. There are situations where intuition can point you in a direction that logic cannot. A person might read through a contract and see all the logical points, but a gut feeling might tell them that something doesn't sit right. It's often in these moments that intuition saves us. You might not have the facts to back it up, but something about the situation triggers a response deep within. It's an internal alarm system, alerting you to pay closer attention. Take, for instance, a manager making a hiring decision. They may look at resumes, interview candidates, and check references. Logic guides much of the process, but there might be a moment when a candidate just doesn't feel like the right fit, even if they meet all the qualifications. The manager can't always explain why they feel this way, but the intuition to trust that gut feeling is powerful. It's often based on the small, unspoken things, the way a person carries themselves, the tone of their voice, or how they interact with others, that add up to an instinctual understanding of who they are. Intuition is not limited to the obvious or to people. It's also about reading situations. Sometimes your gut feeling can tell you when something is wrong in a room, even before anyone speaks a word. In a meeting, for example, you might feel tension building, though no one has expressed any concern openly. This feeling of discomfort, of sensing something before it becomes clear, is your intuition at work. It helps you understand dynamics that logic or observation alone can't always explain. We often rely too much on logic because it's measurable and predictable. But logic doesn't always see the full picture. Intuition fills in the gaps. It's not about doing away with reason, but understanding that intuition offers a different kind of insight. It comes from experience, from knowledge that we may not even be fully aware of. Think of a seasoned chess player. Their moves are not purely strategic in the moment. Much of what they do comes from an inner sense built from years of playing, from seeing patterns emerge that they don't consciously think about. They trust their gut because their experience has shown them that it works. Another example might be in the arts. A musician may improvise a melody not because they've memorized it, but because they feel it. It's not a decision made from a place of logic, but from something deeper. The more they practice and engage with their craft, the stronger their intuition becomes. It's the same with any skill. The more experience we gain, the more we trust that internal guidance. But how do you begin to trust intuition if you've spent years relying on logic alone? The first step is to slow down. Intuition is not always loud or obvious. It's subtle. Often it's a whisper that comes when we are still. The noise of daily life, the constant stream of thoughts and worries, can drown out the quiet voice of intuition. When we pause, take a moment to clear our minds, and listen, that's when intuition finds its voice. For instance, if you're faced with an important decision, rather than rushing in with a list of pros and cons, try to sit quietly and notice what you feel. What comes up when you think about each option? Do you feel drawn to one more than the other? Do certain options feel heavier or lighter in your body? This is the kind of response that intuition gives us. It's not a mental analysis, but a physical or emotional one. Some people may hesitate to trust their intuition because it feels unpredictable or unreliable. But intuition isn't random. It's built on experience, patterns, and a deep understanding that we may not be consciously aware of. It's not about making rash decisions based on fleeting feelings, but about tuning into the deeper knowledge you've gathered over time. For example, if someone has worked in a certain field for years, their intuition can guide them in ways that logic might not. They've seen enough situations, patterns, and outcomes to trust their instinct, even if they can't explain exactly why they feel the way they do. Over time, you can strengthen your intuition by paying attention to it. When you make a decision based on gut feeling, check back later to see if it was the right choice. Was that initial feeling correct? The more you practice listening to and acting on your intuition, the clearer it will become. It's like any other skill, you get better with use. While logic is important, it's also limited. Logic relies on known facts and measurable data, but intuition taps into a deeper source of understanding. It helps you make decisions in situations where you don't have all the information. It gives you an edge when the facts alone don't tell the whole story. Intuition works with the heart, the body, and the subconscious mind, bringing together a wealth of unspoken knowledge to guide you. By learning to trust your intuition, you make space for a broader kind of intelligence. It's a form of intelligence that doesn't follow the rules of logic, but follows the language of the body and mind, a language built over years of experience. You don't need to explain it or prove it, you just need to listen and trust that it's guiding you in the right direction. Gratitude can change the way we see the world. It isn't just about saying thank you when something good happens, but about practicing thankfulness every day. Ritualized gratitude is a way of making thankfulness a part of your routine, something you do not just when you feel grateful, but as a regular part of life. When you offer thanks daily for food, life, and community, you begin to shift your perspective. It becomes less about what's missing and more about what's already here. One of the simplest forms of ritualized gratitude is offering thanks before meals. This practice has been around for centuries. In cultures all over the world, when you take a moment before eating, you pause to recognize the food before you, the effort it took to grow or prepare it, and the nourishment it provides. It's a small act, but it connects you to the source of your food. It reminds you that this meal is not just something that appears on the table, it's the result of hard work, nature's gifts, and many hands. Whether you are sitting down to a simple meal or a feast, this pause of gratitude can help you appreciate the food in front of you and the fact that it is available. In some cultures, people thank the earth, the farmers, and the animals that provided their food. A farmer who grows the crops, a chef who prepares the meal, or even the hands that set the table all play a role in bringing food to the table. When you offer thanks for food, it is an acknowledgement that you are part of a larger cycle. You depend on the land, on the seasons, and on the community around you. By taking a moment to reflect on this, you create a stronger connection to the world and the people who help sustain you. Gratitude doesn't stop with food. It stretches to life itself. Every day is a gift. It might seem like an obvious thing to say, but it's easy to forget. Life moves quickly, and we often get caught up in the rush of daily tasks, worries, and distractions. But when you pause each day to offer thanks for the simple fact that you are alive, you reconnect with the preciousness of life itself. This doesn't mean you have to ignore the struggles or challenges you face. Acknowledging life's difficulties is part of the process. But taking a moment each day to thank life, whether for its joy or its challenges, can bring a sense of balance. For instance, if you wake up feeling tired or stressed, you might take a deep breath and say thank you for another day. You might recognize that even in the middle of difficulties, you have the ability to experience the world and make choices. Life is fragile, and every day is an opportunity to make the most of what you have. By offering thanks for life, you accept both the easy and hard moments as part of a larger journey. Community is another essential part of ritualized gratitude. No one lives in isolation, and no one thrives alone. We are all part of a larger web, connected to others. Gratitude for community is about recognizing the people around you, whether family, friends, co-workers, or strangers, and the ways in which they contribute to your well-being. When you give thanks for your community, you acknowledge that no one person can meet all their needs alone. You are part of something larger, something that requires cooperation, trust, and support. Think of the simple act of walking into a store. Behind every item on the shelf, there is a whole system of people working together. Farmers, drivers, warehouse workers, store employees, all contributing in their own way. When you stop to thank the community that makes this possible, you realize how much you rely on others and how much they rely on you. This recognition of mutual dependence strengthens relationships and fosters a sense of belonging. Ritualized gratitude can also help strengthen family bonds. Taking time to express thanks together as a family, whether it's at the dinner table or before going to bed, can create a shared sense of appreciation. Children learn by example. When they see gratitude practiced regularly, they begin to understand the value of what they have. A child might offer thanks for their family, their health, or even for small moments of joy. This simple act of gratitude sets a foundation for empathy and respect, both for others and for themselves. Sometimes, ritualized gratitude can take the form of a written practice. Keeping a gratitude journal where you write down a few things you're thankful for each day can help reinforce this habit. Writing allows you to reflect more deeply on the things that might be taken for granted. You might write about the beauty of a sunset, the support of a friend, or the kindness of a stranger. It's easy to focus on what's wrong or what's missing in life, but a gratitude journal helps you see the many things that are already going right. Over time, this practice can shift the way you see the world. You may begin to notice small things that might have gone unnoticed before. The warmth of the sun on your face, the laughter of children, the smell of fresh bread. These are all gifts, and taking the time to recognize them makes life feel richer, more meaningful. It's easy to feel disconnected or to take things for granted, but when you practice gratitude, you become more attuned to the abundance around you. Offering thanks doesn't have to be grand or elaborate. It can be as simple as taking a moment to pause and reflect. Before you start your day, you might take a few deep breaths and silently thank the world for the opportunities ahead. Before you go to sleep, you might reflect on the day and offer thanks for the experiences, both good and bad. This ritualized practice doesn't require much effort, but it changes the way you engage with the world. Gratitude also helps foster resilience. Life isn't always easy, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the challenges we face. But when we take time each day to express thanks, it creates a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Even on tough days, you can find something to be grateful for, perhaps the support of a loved one, a moment of peace in the midst of chaos, or the strength to get through a difficult situation. Gratitude reminds you that you have more resources, both inside and around you, than you might realize. The act of offering thanks daily for food, life, and community is an invitation to slow down, reflect, and recognize the many gifts we already have. It's about making gratitude a habit, not just a reaction to something special. It's a way of reconnecting with the world, with others, and with yourself. By practicing ritualized gratitude, you strengthen your connection to the present moment, to the people around you, and to the many blessings that life offers. Most people think of time as a straight line. We wake up, go through our day, sleep, and then start the cycle again. The days pass, one after another, in a predictable way. This way of seeing time is often called linear time. In this view, time is something that moves forward, and each moment is a step toward the next. However, there are other ways to think about time, and one of them is nonlinear time, where time is seen more as a cycle rather than a straight line. In a nonlinear view of time, events repeat in cycles. These cycles are not always the same, but they follow patterns that can be observed and predicted. A good example of nonlinear time is the way seasons change. Spring follows winter, summer follows spring, and fall follows summer. The seasons don't happen in a straight line. They are part of a continuous cycle. This cycle is not about moving forward in time. It's about returning to the same point again and again, each time with a slightly different version of the same story. The plant that blooms in spring is different from the one that bloomed last year, just as the person who experiences each season is different from the one who experienced it before. Many cultures understand time as a series of repeating cycles. In ancient civilizations, people observed the cycles of the moon and the sun and used them to shape their lives. The ancient Egyptians, for example, paid close attention to the rising of the star Sirius, which signaled the flooding of the Nile River. This event happened every year, like clockwork, and it marked the beginning of the agricultural season. The Egyptians understood that time was not a straight path, but a repeating loop of events that returned with regularity. They planned their lives around these cycles, knowing that each cycle would bring something new while still being part of the same ongoing rhythm. Similarly, many indigenous cultures see time as cyclical. Native American traditions often speak of the circle of life, where everything that is born must die, and death is not the end but a return to the earth. This view of time doesn't focus on linear progress, but on cycles of life, death, and rebirth. In this view, each ending is just the beginning of another cycle. The land and seasons, the growth of plants and animals, and even the life of people follow this natural recurring rhythm. In these cultures, time is not about moving forward to something new, but about returning to the same points over and over again. each time with a deeper understanding or a new perspective. The concept of nonlinear time also appears in the way people think about personal growth. In linear thinking, personal progress is often seen as a straight line. You start at point A, move toward point B, and then finish at point C. The goal is to keep moving forward, always improving, always achieving. However, nonlinear time suggests that growth is more like a spiral. It's not about moving from one point to the next, but about revisiting the same stages of life or experiences, each time at a new level. Think about learning something new. At first you may struggle with the basics. Later you may return to those same basics, but with a deeper understanding or a new skill that changes how you see them. You're not moving forward in a straight line, but revisiting old concepts in new ways, each time growing more complex and more refined. A common experience of nonlinear time can be seen in how people approach personal challenges. People often face similar problems at different points in their lives. A person may struggle with a difficult relationship or a career decision, only to face a similar challenge years later. In a linear view of time, this might seem like a setback, as if they've failed to move forward, but in a nonlinear view, these challenges are just part of the ongoing cycle of life. The lessons learned in one experience can be applied in a new situation, allowing the person to grow and adapt. It's not about moving past the challenge, but about learning how to handle it more skillfully each time it comes around. Nonlinear time can also be seen in the way people experience historical events. Rather than seeing history as a straightforward path from one event to the next, many cultures view history as a series of cycles. In some indigenous cultures, history is seen as repeating itself, where similar events and patterns happen over and over again, but each time with new contexts and new challenges. For example, the rise and fall of empires or the cycles of war and peace are often viewed not as isolated events, but as part of a repeating pattern. This view of time allows people to learn from past mistakes, recognizing that history can teach valuable lessons for the present and future. In modern society, we may think of time as linear because of the way we measure it. Calendars, clocks, and schedules all suggest that time moves forward in a straight line. The idea of linear time often shapes how we think about our goals and achievements. We set deadlines, create plans, and measure success by how much we accomplish in a set period. But nonlinear time offers a different perspective, suggesting that success doesn't have to be about constant progress. Instead, it can be about revisiting experiences, learning from them, and applying that knowledge in new and unexpected ways. People's relationship with time often changes as they grow older. As children, we are taught to think of time as a series of milestones, birthdays, graduations, and other markers of progress. We are encouraged to look forward, to keep moving ahead. But as adults, many people start to feel that time is moving faster, that the years seem to blur together. This shift in perception can be understood as a move from linear to nonlinear thinking. Instead of seeing time as a line moving from one event to the next, we start to experience it as a series of overlapping cycles, with certain events repeating themselves and new phases emerging. In nature, nonlinear time is everywhere. The life cycles of animals and plants repeat with the seasons. A tree grows, produces seeds, and then its seeds grow into new trees, following a cycle that has repeated for millions of years. This cycle isn't linear. It's a constant return to the same point, but with new growth, new experiences, and new stages of life. Just like the seasons, human life moves in cycles, where we return to similar places, but with new knowledge and new wisdom each time. Thinking about time as nonlinear can also change how we deal with setbacks or challenges. When things don't go as planned, it can feel like we've hit a dead end, as if we're not progressing at all. But if we understand time as cyclical, setbacks can be seen as a natural part of the process. They aren't failures, they are opportunities to revisit old lessons, learn something new, and move forward in a new direction. Just like the seasons, life has its ups and downs, but it always comes around again, offering another chance to grow and learn. Breathwork is the practice of using conscious breathing to bring about physical, mental, and emotional changes. It's about paying attention to your breath, not just as a basic function, but as a tool for deeper awareness and healing. When you breathe consciously, you're not just taking in air, you're connecting with your body and mind in a more intentional way. It can lead to altered states of consciousness, moments of clarity, and even a sense of peace that might feel hard to reach otherwise. The breath is one of the few bodily functions that can be controlled. We breathe without thinking, but we can also choose to breathe in specific ways that affect our state of mind. For example, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps calm the body. This is why slow, deep breaths can feel relaxing after a stressful situation. By focusing on the breath, we can reset our bodies, quiet the noise in our minds, and start to heal in ways we might not expect. Consider a moment when you felt tense or anxious. The first thing that happens when stress hits is that your breathing becomes shallow and quick. This is a natural response to stress, but it also keeps the body in a constant state of alert. When you notice this happening, simply changing the way you breathe can begin to shift that state. By slowing your breath, lengthening the inhales, and gently lengthening the exhales, you can break the cycle. It's like telling your body that it's safe to relax. Breathwork can be used for a variety of purposes. It's often used for healing. If you've ever had a moment when you felt emotionally overwhelmed, you've probably noticed how the breath changes, the chest tightens, and it becomes harder to breathe. This is where breathwork can help. By intentionally breathing in a way that opens the body and encourages relaxation, you can clear blocked emotions. Breathwork isn't just about relaxation though, it's also a way to work through deeper emotional pain or tension. Imagine someone who has been holding on to grief or sadness for a long time. The body can store these emotions, and the breath reflects that. Through specific breathing techniques, the person can begin to release what they've been holding on to. The practice of focusing on the breath helps to bring attention to where tension or tightness may exist. Over time, this awareness can open up space for healing. By connecting with the breath, a person can start to let go of what they've been carrying, allowing the body to relax and heal. Breathwork can also bring about altered states of consciousness. In some practices, the breath is used as a tool to access a different level of awareness. This isn't about getting lost in the breath, but about using the breath to guide the mind into a space where new insights can emerge. Certain breathing techniques can shift brain activity and bring about a heightened sense of clarity or awareness. People often report having vivid experiences or moments of profound understanding during these practices. A simple example of this might be a deep breathing exercise done in a quiet space. If you focus on the inhale, making it long and steady, and then focus on the exhale, releasing the breath slowly and deeply, you may begin to notice a change. With each breath, the mind becomes quieter. There's less noise from thoughts. This can feel like a reset, where the distractions fall away, and you can tune into a deeper sense of self. Some people describe this feeling as being more present, more connected, or even experiencing a sense of oneness. There are many types of breathwork, each with its own approach and intention. One common method is known as diaphragmatic breathing. In this technique, you focus on breathing deeply into the belly, rather than the chest. By expanding the diaphragm with each breath, you encourage a fuller, more relaxed breath that can help calm the nervous system. This type of breathing is often used to relieve stress and promote relaxation. The key here is to focus on the breath moving in and out of the body, not to control it, but to observe and guide it in a gentle way. Another method is known as box breathing. This technique involves breathing in for a count of 4, holding the breath for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding the breath out for 4. This creates a rhythmic pattern that can help bring the mind back to the present. It's especially helpful if you're feeling scattered or overwhelmed. The structured rhythm of box breathing gives the mind something to focus on, which can help quiet mental chatter and bring a sense of order. Some breathwork techniques are more intense. Holotropic breathing, for example, involves quick, deep breaths designed to bring about a shift in consciousness. This type of breathing can sometimes lead to emotional release or a feeling of connection to something larger than yourself. It's not for everyone, and it's important to approach it with care and, if necessary, under guidance. But for those who are ready, it can open up a powerful space for self-exploration and healing. The rapid pace of the breath shifts the body's chemistry, creating a different state of awareness where feelings, memories, or insights can surface. Breathwork doesn't always have to be tied to a formal practice. You can use breath to guide yourself in moments of stress or discomfort. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed in a meeting, or when faced with a difficult decision, you can pause and focus on your breath. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the air fill your lungs and exhale slowly. Just this simple act of focused breathing can shift your state. It's like a reset button for your mind and body. In moments when you feel anxious or unsure, breathwork offers a way to ground yourself and find clarity. In this way, breathwork is a tool that anyone can use at any time. It doesn't require special equipment or a lot of time. It's simply about bringing awareness to the breath and using it to create a sense of calm, healing, or clarity. Even in the middle of a busy day, you can take a few moments to focus on your breath. It doesn't matter if you're sitting or standing. The act of pausing and breathing intentionally can be enough to bring you back to center. In the end, breathwork is a way of connecting with yourself. It's a way of tuning into the body and mind, of slowing down enough to notice the small shifts that happen with each breath. By using the breath consciously, you can tap into a powerful tool for healing, focus, and growth. The breath is always with you, and by paying attention to it, you can unlock deeper levels of awareness and understanding. It's simple, accessible, and incredibly powerful. Fasting and feasting are ancient practices that have deep spiritual meaning. They are cycles of scarcity and abundance, not just of food, but of experience. These cycles help us understand balance, self-discipline, and gratitude. By choosing times of fasting and times of feasting, we bring attention to what we have and what we are without. It's a way of remembering that life is not always full, and that moments of abundance are made all the more meaningful by the times of scarcity. Fasting is often seen as a way to clear the mind, cleanse the body, or grow spiritually. The act of withholding food, whether for a set time, a day, or longer, forces us to pay attention to our physical needs and desires. It strips away distractions and reminds us of what is essential. In some traditions, fasting is a way to draw closer to the divine, to make space for reflection and prayer. The hunger that comes with fasting is not just physical, it can be emotional and spiritual too. When we go without, we confront the parts of ourselves that are dependent on comforts, routines, and excess. This process can feel uncomfortable at times, but it is this discomfort that often leads to growth. By giving up something we take for granted, we make room for deeper reflection. Consider the act of fasting for a day. At first, the idea of not eating might seem simple, but as the hours pass, the body begins to crave food. This is the point where fasting becomes a tool for self-awareness. We learn quickly how much we rely on food for comfort or distraction. When hunger pains arise, we are forced to confront them. We might feel weak or irritable, but we also begin to see our relationship with food and how it shapes our behavior. In this way, fasting teaches us discipline. It reminds us that we are capable of enduring discomfort and still finding strength. Fasting also connects us to the cycles of nature. Just as seasons shift between scarcity and abundance, fasting reminds us of these natural rhythms. In the winter, the earth lies fallow, resting and regenerating for the spring. In the same way, fasting allows the body and mind to rest, to pause, and to prepare for the next season of abundance. After a period of fasting, the return to food is experienced with new appreciation. We see food not just as a routine, but as a gift. It reminds us that abundance is something to be grateful for, not something we should take for granted. Feasting, on the other hand, is the celebration of abundance. It is a time of gathering, of enjoying the fullness of life, and of appreciating what we have. Feasting has its roots in many cultures and often marks important moments, harvest festivals, birthdays, or religious holidays. It's a time to share food, stories, and laughter with others. In these moments of plenty, we are reminded of the interconnectedness of all people. When we feast, we celebrate not just the food itself, but the relationships and community that bring us together. Feasting is often a communal activity. Think of a family dinner, where everyone comes together to enjoy a meal. There is joy in the sharing, in the laughter that fills the room, and in the food that nourishes the body. Feasting isn't just about quantity, it's about connection. It's about taking time to appreciate what we have and sharing it with others. The act of gathering around a table is a reminder that life's abundance is best enjoyed together. Feasting also calls us to give thanks. When we sit down to a meal, especially one shared with loved ones, we are reminded of how fortunate we are. In those moments, abundance is not just measured in food, but in the relationships we have, the health we enjoy, and the opportunities before us. However, feasting also serves as a reminder of the fragile balance between abundance and scarcity. It can be easy to overindulge during times of feasting, to consume without thinking or without appreciation. The excess of feasting, if not tempered with mindfulness, can lead to waste or even harm. This is where the cycle of fasting comes back into play. After a time of abundance, we may return to fasting to restore balance. It is through this back and forth between fasting and feasting that we come to truly understand what it means to have enough. Feasting without fasting can lead to excess, while fasting without feasting can lead to deprivation. The two work together to help us recognize the fullness of life and the importance of moderation. In some spiritual traditions, fasting and feasting are seen as ways to honor the body and the soul. Fasting is a time for clearing the mind, for focusing inward. It is a time for humility and reflection, as we acknowledge that we do not control all aspects of life. Feasting, in contrast, is a time for celebration, for honoring life and the world around us. It is about gratitude, recognizing the bounty that we have, and sharing it with others. These cycles help us appreciate both the highs and lows of life, and understand that both are necessary for spiritual growth. The practice of alternating between fasting and feasting also serves as a reminder that we are part of a larger rhythm. Just as the earth has seasons, so do we. At times we may experience abundance, whether in material wealth, relationships, or health. At other times we may face scarcity, whether in resources, energy, or spirit. Both of these times are part of a natural cycle. By acknowledging this, we can move through the seasons of life with greater ease and understanding. We can accept the periods of scarcity as times of rest and reflection, and we can embrace the times of abundance with gratitude and mindfulness. The key to fasting and feasting as a spiritual practice is balance. Neither should dominate our lives. Fasting is not about punishing the body, and feasting is not about indulgence for its own sake. Instead, both practices are about understanding our relationship with the world around us, whether it's food, resources, or people. They help us appreciate what we have and remind us of the deeper rhythms of life. In this way, fasting and feasting offer a way to align ourselves with the natural cycles of abundance and scarcity, creating space for growth, connection, and gratitude. Fasting and feasting, when done thoughtfully, deepen our understanding of ourselves and the world we live in. They are not just about food, but about the ways we navigate life's ups and downs. They teach us that scarcity and abundance are not opposites, but parts of a larger whole. Through these cycles, we can find greater peace, deeper connection, and a stronger sense of balance. Sacred sex teachings view intimacy as something much deeper than physical pleasure. They see it as a union of body, spirit, and creation. This understanding stretches beyond the act of sex itself and touches on a connection that binds two people together on a spiritual and energetic level. In these traditions, sex is not just about physical release, but is an opportunity for growth, healing, and union with the universe. In many ancient cultures, sex was seen as a sacred act that brought people closer to the divine. The belief was that the act of union between two people mirrored the union of the masculine and feminine energies that exist in the world. These energies are often symbolized by the sun and the moon, the earth and the sky, or other dualities that represent the balance of forces in nature. The act of sex in this view is not simply a physical interaction, but a ritual that celebrates this balance, bringing harmony to both individuals and the universe. For example, in Tantra, an ancient practice from India, sexual union is seen as a way to merge with the divine. Tantric teachings emphasize the importance of mindfulness and presence during the act of sex. It is not just about reaching physical orgasm, but about being fully aware of the energy between you and your partner. In tantric sex, the goal is to connect on a deeper level, transcending the physical and tapping into a spiritual experience. The practice encourages people to slow down, focusing not just on their own pleasure but on their partners as well. This approach brings the two people closer together, fostering not only physical intimacy but also a deeper emotional and spiritual connection. Tantra teaches that sexual energy is powerful, and when it is harnessed properly, it can lead to spiritual awakening. The sexual act becomes a form of meditation, where two people align their energies and create a powerful bond. The teachings emphasize the importance of mutual respect, trust, and understanding in building this connection. By making sex a sacred act, Tantra allows individuals to experience the divine within themselves and their partners. It transforms the act from something purely physical into something that nourishes the soul. In Tantrist traditions, there is a similar understanding of sex as a means of spiritual connection. Tantrism views sexual energy as a vital life force, often referred to as chi. In Tantrist teachings, sex is seen as a way to cultivate and exchange energy between partners, promoting health, vitality, and spiritual growth. In this context, the act of sex is more than just a means of reproduction. It is a sacred exchange of energy that can bring balance and harmony to the body and spirit. Tantrist sex practices involve techniques that are designed to slow down the sexual experience, focusing on breathing, energy flow, and connection with one's partner. The Tantrist practice of sexual energy exchange encourages people to focus on building intimacy slowly and deliberately. Rather than rushing toward orgasm, the goal is to build up energy over time, allowing it to flow freely between both partners. This energy exchange creates a sense of deep unity, where both people experience pleasure not only in their bodies but in their spirits as well. In Tantrism, the idea is that through this union, individuals can achieve greater self-awareness, deepen their connection to their own energy, and ultimately connect with the universe on a higher level. Sexuality in these traditions is also seen as a way to create and nurture life. In many cultures, sex is considered sacred because it is the act that brings new life into the world. In this view, sex is not merely about physical pleasure, but about honoring the power of creation itself. When two people come together in this way, they are participating in the cycle of life, a cycle that is deeply rooted in the natural world. The act of sex becomes a way to honor this connection, understanding that it is through the union of the masculine and feminine energies that life continues. In the same vein, sacred sex teachings also stress the importance of being fully present during the act of intimacy. It is about being mindful of both your own body and your partner's, as well as the energy that exists between you. In a society where instant gratification and disconnected experiences of sex are common, sacred sex offers an alternative, a way to experience intimacy that is conscious, deliberate, and spiritually enriching. It encourages people to approach their partners with respect and reverence, recognizing the sacredness of the connection they are sharing. The practice of sacred sex is not just about physical connection, but also emotional and spiritual connection. When people engage in intimacy with a deeper understanding of their own energy and the energy of their partner, they create a space where healing can take place. Sexual energy, when shared consciously, can help release emotional blockages, bring balance to the body, and restore a sense of well-being. This is why sacred sex is often seen as a form of healing, both individually and as a couple. Through it, people can release past trauma, deepen their emotional connection, and strengthen the bond they share. Sacred sex teachings also involve the idea of sacredness in the way people treat their bodies. In these traditions, the body is viewed as a temple, a vessel that holds and channels energy. The act of sex then becomes a way to honor the body, to treat it with respect, and to connect with the energies that flow through it. By caring for the body, both physically and emotionally, individuals can experience deeper intimacy, not just with their partners, but with themselves as well. The teachings encourage people to look at sex not as something separate from the rest of life, but as something that connects them to the whole of existence. In this view, every sexual experience is an opportunity to connect with the divine, to honor the creative forces that flow through us, and to build deeper bonds with others. It is not just about physical pleasure, but about engaging in an act that is sacred, transformative, and connected to something much larger than ourselves. In many ways, sacred sex teachings provide a framework for understanding intimacy that goes beyond the surface level. By connecting to the body, spirit, and the larger forces of creation, individuals can approach sex in a way that brings them closer to their true selves, to their partners, and to the divine. Sex becomes not just a physical act but a spiritual one, where love, energy, and creation come together in a powerful, transformative experience. Shamanic journeys are a way of exploring the deeper parts of the self, often through altered states of consciousness. These journeys use techniques like trance, vision quests, and sometimes plant medicine to open up new paths for understanding and insight. They are ancient practices found in many cultures around the world, where the shaman or spiritual guide would enter into a trance to access knowledge, healing, or guidance that wasn't available in everyday life. A shamanic journey typically begins with the use of rhythmic sounds, like drumming or rattling, to guide the person into a trance-like state. The sound helps to focus the mind and bring the body into a relaxed, yet aware, state. The trance is not sleep. Instead, it is a heightened state of awareness where the mind is open to receiving information and visions. In this space, you are more likely to connect with spiritual guides, animals, or symbols that offer insight into your life or challenges. It is a way of stepping beyond the physical world and into a deeper, more intuitive realm. The purpose of a shamanic journey is often to seek answers or clarity. Maybe you are facing a difficult decision or need to heal from an emotional wound. During the journey, you may encounter figures or symbols that give you guidance. For example, you might meet a spirit animal, like an eagle, who represents perspective and the ability to see things from a higher view. Or you might come across an ancient tree that offers wisdom about patience and growth. These encounters don't always have clear answers, but they guide the journeyer toward a deeper understanding of themselves and their situation. The message might be subtle, but it's often a message you can feel deeply in your body and soul. A vision quest is another form of shamanic journey, though it tends to be more focused and intense. In a vision quest, you may go alone into nature, fasting and sitting in solitude for an extended period of time. The aim is to connect with the spirit world through silence and stillness. While some vision quests are done with the help of a guide, many are personal and solitary. The idea is to open yourself to the natural world, to let it speak to you in its own language. The time in solitude allows for a deeper connection with the earth and its energies, and it often leads to moments of clarity or spiritual awakening. During a vision quest, you might face moments of discomfort. The body becomes hungry, tired, or restless, but this is part of the process. In many traditions, the discomfort is a part of breaking through the ego and opening to something greater. It is about letting go of your daily worries and distractions to connect with something larger than yourself. The answers you find during a vision quest are not always immediate. Sometimes it is the process of the journey itself that leads to the greatest understanding, rather than any particular insight or message. Another tool used in shamanic journeys is plant medicine. Plants like ayahuasca, peyote, and psilocybin mushrooms have been used for centuries in certain cultures to open the mind and spirit to higher consciousness. These plants are not just for getting high, but for spiritual exploration. They are used in a ceremonial context with intention, often under the guidance of a trained shaman or facilitator. The plant medicine alters the way the mind works, opening new pathways to deeper insights. When taken in the right context, these plants can help a person see beyond their normal thought patterns and experience the world in a way that is difficult to access otherwise. When a person uses plant medicine in a shamanic journey, they might experience vivid visions, emotional releases, or even a sense of unity with the natural world. The experience can be intense, and it is not always easy. Some people experience fear, discomfort, or confusion as they face their inner demons or emotional wounds. But these challenges often lead to growth. It's like going through a storm before finding calm on the other side. Through plant medicine, a person may come face to face with their deepest fears or regrets, but in this confrontation, they are given the chance to heal and grow. The effects of plant medicine can be powerful, but they are temporary. What lasts longer is the insight gained. After the experience, the journeyer often feels changed, more aware of their inner self or their connection to the world around them. The medicine offers a doorway to a new understanding, but it is up to the individual to integrate what they have learned into their daily life. It is not a one-time fix, but a tool for deeper exploration. Shamanic journeys are not always about seeking answers or guidance. Sometimes they are about healing. Many shamanic practices focus on the idea that the body and soul are interconnected. When the soul is hurt or the spirit is in pain, it can manifest in the body as illness or discomfort. Through the journey, the shaman or the individual might encounter areas of their life or past that need healing. This might be trauma, grief, or emotional wounds that have been carried for years. Through the journey, these wounds can be seen and acknowledged, allowing the person to release them and heal. This type of healing is deeply personal. Each journey is different, and the experiences vary widely from person to person. For some, the healing may come through emotional release, tears, laughter, or a sudden wave of clarity. For others, it may be a deeper physical sensation, like a knot in the chest loosening or a sense of lightness returning to the body. The healing often takes place not through force but through surrender. The journeyer must be willing to face whatever comes up, to trust the process, and to let go of what no longer serves them. Shamanic journeys can also be a way of connecting with the natural world. In many traditions, nature is seen as a reflection of the spiritual world. The trees, rocks, and animals carry wisdom that can be accessed through the journey. By entering into a trance or altered state, you may find yourself seeing nature in a new way. The wind might speak to you, or you might understand the language of the birds. In this way, the journey becomes a way of understanding not just yourself, but the world around you in a more profound way. Nature becomes a teacher, and the landscape itself becomes a sacred space for learning. While shamanic journeys often use trance, vision quests, and plant medicine, it is important to note that these practices require respect and preparation. They are not for everyone, and they should be approached with caution and under the guidance of a knowledgeable guide or teacher. Whether done alone or with a facilitator, the journey is a deep and transformative experience. It is not a shortcut or a quick fix. It is a process of self-discovery, healing, and spiritual growth. Through these journeys, people have the chance to connect with a deeper part of themselves and the world, gaining insights and wisdom that can last a lifetime. The body is not just a physical form, it is a vessel that carries us through life. To treat it well is not merely an act of self-care, but a spiritual duty. When we care for our bodies, we honor the gift of life. Each action we take, whether it's what we eat, how we move, or how we rest, shapes the health of our body and in turn our spirit. Viewing the body as a temple is about understanding that our physical well-being is not separate from our spiritual well-being. The two are connected, and taking care of one serves to strengthen the other. When you treat the body as a temple, you approach it with respect. You recognize that it is a sacred vessel, and that how you care for it impacts not just your physical health, but your mental and emotional states as well. For instance, eating well is not just about fueling the body, it's about honoring the nourishment that the earth provides. Whole foods, fruits, vegetables, grains, and lean proteins are gifts that sustain us. Choosing what we eat carefully is a form of reverence for our bodies. When you make these choices, you are sending a message to yourself that you value your health and well-being. Food is not the only way to honor the body. Movement is another important part of physical care. Exercise keeps the body strong and helps maintain the energy flow that allows us to live fully, whether it's walking, yoga, running, or any other form of movement. Taking the time to keep the body active is a way of expressing gratitude for its ability to move, work, and serve us. When you choose to exercise, you are affirming that your body is capable and worthy of care. This act is both physical and spiritual. It is not simply about building muscle or losing weight. It is about keeping the body in a state of readiness to serve both yourself and others. Consider a morning walk. With each step, you are allowing your body to stretch, strengthen, and wake up. The movement brings oxygen to your muscles and stimulates your senses. The rhythm of your footsteps can become a meditation, a way of clearing the mind and connecting to the present moment. A simple walk is an act of honoring the body as a temple. You are acknowledging its strength and its ability to move through the world. By giving it this time, you reinforce its importance and the role it plays in your daily life. Rest is also a critical part of honoring the body. In our busy world, it's easy to neglect sleep and overwork ourselves. Yet, rest is essential for both physical and spiritual health. The body needs time to heal, regenerate, and restore. When we allow ourselves proper sleep and downtime, we give our bodies the chance to repair and recharge. Just as we would treat any sacred space with care, we must give our bodies the respect they deserve by allowing them time to rest and recover. In many spiritual traditions, fasting is a practice that aligns with treating the body as a temple. Fasting, when done mindfully, is a way of resetting the body and giving it space to detoxify. By abstaining from food for a period, we allow the body to focus on healing and cleaning itself. It's not about deprivation or punishment, but about giving the digestive system a break and using that time for reflection and renewal. This practice, when done thoughtfully, connects us to our physical and spiritual needs. It reminds us that we are more than our cravings and that the body can thrive even with less. There is also a deeper connection between mental health and physical health. Stress, anxiety, and negative thoughts can weigh heavily on the body, causing tension, headaches, or even illness. This connection reinforces the idea that treating the body as a temple is not just about physical actions, but also about mental and emotional care. When we nourish our minds with positive thoughts and practices, we help support the body's ability to heal and thrive. Practices like meditation, mindfulness, or even simple deep breathing exercises can support both mental and physical health. By clearing the mind, we help relax the body and reduce the physical symptoms of stress. Another key part of treating the body as a temple is understanding its limits. Many people push their bodies too hard, whether through overwork, exercise, or unhealthy habits. But the body, like any temple, needs boundaries. It needs care and attention to function at its best. Pushing past exhaustion or ignoring pain is not honoring the body, it's abusing it. Learning to listen to the body, to recognize when it needs rest or when it needs nourishment, is an act of respect. Taking a break when needed, skipping an extra hour of work for a peaceful moment, or choosing a healthier meal when tempted by junk food are all ways of recognizing and honoring the limits of the body. Emotional well-being plays a crucial role in how the body functions. If the mind is at ease, the body is better able to function. When we carry emotional baggage or unresolved issues, these can manifest physically through tension, illness, or fatigue. By treating the body as a temple, we also take steps to care for our emotional health. Talking through our feelings, seeking therapy or counseling when needed, or finding healthy ways to process stress can all help maintain both emotional and physical health. When the mind and body work in harmony, the temple becomes stronger, more balanced, and more capable of withstanding the stresses of life. Gratitude is another spiritual practice that plays a significant role in treating the body as a temple. When we express gratitude for our bodies, we acknowledge everything they do for us. The heart beats, the lungs breathe, and our muscles move us throughout the day without much thought. Taking time to appreciate these functions can bring us into a deeper connection with our physical selves. This practice of gratitude extends to the small daily rituals, drinking water, stretching in the morning, choosing nourishing food, that show respect for the body's needs. By recognizing that our bodies work tirelessly for us, we develop a greater sense of responsibility for their care. The body, when treated as a temple, becomes a source of strength and clarity. It is a tool that allows us to live fully, to serve others, and to experience life. When we take care of our physical health, we strengthen our spiritual well-being. By honoring our bodies through movement, rest, food, and emotional care, we create a foundation for a life that is more balanced, more connected, and more intentional. Our bodies are not just tools for daily function, they are sacred spaces that deserve respect and care. By treating them as such, we live more fully in both body and spirit. Death is a part of life that everyone will face. Yet, it is something many people avoid thinking about. In many cultures, death is seen as a taboo subject, something to be feared or hidden away. But there are others who approach death with a sense of ritual, acceptance, and preparation. These practices, known as death literacy, help people face mortality with understanding and peace. Death literacy is not just about accepting that death will come, but also about being prepared for it in a thoughtful and respectful way. Rituals surrounding death have been a part of human history for thousands of years. These rituals help guide individuals and communities through the grief and loss that accompany death. In many cultures, death rituals are seen as a way to honor the life of the deceased and to help the living come to terms with their loss. In some traditions, the body is washed and prepared by family or religious figures, symbolizing a clean transition to the afterlife. The ritual acts as a reminder that death is not just an end but a passage, and the community gathers to support one another in this moment. For example, in Mexico, the Day of the Dead is celebrated every year. This holiday is not about mourning death, but celebrating the lives of those who have passed. Families gather to create altars, decorate them with flowers, candles, and the favorite foods of their deceased relatives. The atmosphere is festive rather than sorrowful, as people remember the good times they had with those who are no longer with them. This practice highlights the idea that death is not something to fear, but a part of the natural cycle of life. It is a way of staying connected with those who have gone and keeping their memory alive. In many cultures, the idea of death is tied to spiritual beliefs about what happens after the body dies. In Buddhism, for example, death is seen as part of the cycle of life, death and rebirth. The focus is on achieving peace and acceptance as one prepares for death. Buddhist monks may chant prayers and provide guidance to help the dying person make the transition with a calm mind. This approach emphasizes the importance of preparing for death mentally and spiritually, so that the individual can approach it with peace rather than fear. It's not about avoiding death, but accepting it as a natural part of existence. In Western cultures, death rituals have changed over time. Traditionally, funerals were a way for communities to come together to support the family of the deceased. The funeral service often included prayers, music, and eulogies to honor the life of the person who had passed. Over the years, however, many of these practices have become less common, and death has been moved away from the public sphere, often hidden behind closed doors in hospitals or funeral homes. This shift has led to an increasing sense of discomfort or even fear around the subject of death. Without the rituals and community support, it can be difficult to face the end of life with clarity and acceptance. One way that death literacy can be practiced in modern times is through advanced planning. This can involve writing a will, making decisions about end-of-life care, and discussing what kind of funeral or memorial service one would like. In some countries, people are encouraged to discuss these matters while they are still healthy, so that their wishes are known and respected when the time comes. This kind of preparation allows people to feel a sense of control over their death, even when they cannot control when it will come. It also takes the burden off family members who might otherwise be left to make difficult decisions during a time of grief. Some people choose to spend time reflecting on their mortality before they are faced with it. In many spiritual practices, including meditation and prayer, there is a focus on death as a way of gaining deeper wisdom and understanding. For example, in some traditions, practitioners meditate on death as a reminder of the impermanence of life. By accepting that death will come, individuals are encouraged to live more fully, with greater awareness and appreciation for the present moment. This mindset shifts the focus away from fear and denial, and toward acceptance and peace. Another important aspect of death literacy is the support that communities offer to the dying and their families. When someone is dying, having a support network in place can make all the difference. In some cultures, family and friends gather together to care for the person who is dying, offering comfort and helping them prepare for their passing. This can involve both practical help, like managing medications or making arrangements, and emotional support, such as listening to the dying person's thoughts or fears. In these communities, death is seen as a communal experience, not just an individual one. The presence of others, both during the dying process and after the death, provides a sense of solidarity and healing. Facing death also requires confronting the feelings of loss and grief that come with it. Grief is a natural response to losing someone close, but it can be difficult to navigate. Death literacy teaches that grief is not something to be fixed or avoided, but something to be felt and processed. Grieving individuals may turn to rituals, such as lighting candles or holding memorial services, to honor the deceased and help them heal. They may also seek support from loved ones, or from professionals who are trained to help with the emotional weight of loss. Grief does not follow a straight path, and it may take many different forms, but death literacy helps individuals understand that grief is part of the process of letting go and finding peace. In many ways, death literacy is about learning to live with death, not to ignore it. By preparing for death, accepting its inevitability, and embracing the rituals that guide us through it, we can face mortality with dignity and clarity. This approach encourages people to live fully, while also acknowledging that life is finite. It teaches that death is not an enemy, but a natural part of the human experience, one that deserves respect and understanding. The more we can talk about death, plan for it, and accept it, the better equipped we are to face it when the time comes. Death literacy also helps shift our perspective on the importance of relationships and legacy. When we face our own mortality, it becomes easier to see what truly matters in life. The connections we have with others, the love we give and receive, and the way we choose to live each day take on new meaning when we acknowledge that our time is limited. This awareness can inspire us to live with more intention, to make choices that align with our values, and to build deeper connections with the people around us. It also encourages us to leave behind something of value, whether it is through memories, lessons, or actions that will outlast us. By accepting death as part of life, we can focus on what we leave behind and how we live while we are here. A gift economy is built on the idea of giving without expecting anything in return. It is a way of trading value through acts of generosity, not money. Instead of buying goods or services with currency, people offer what they can, trusting that their needs will be met by others in time. This system relies on reciprocity, the understanding that the exchange of gifts will come back around, though not necessarily from the same person. In a gift economy, the value of what is given isn't measured in money, it's measured in the quality and intent behind the gesture. Imagine a small community where people exchange work, goods, and time without the need for cash. One person might fix a fence for their neighbor. In return, that neighbor might offer a basket of freshly picked fruit. Another might help someone carry heavy bags, and in exchange, the favor might be returned when the helper needs assistance moving. There is no immediate or direct exchange of equivalent value, but there is an understanding that everyone will contribute and everyone will receive what they need. This way of trading creates a sense of trust and interdependence. The people in the community don't see each other as customers or clients, but as neighbors and friends. They don't track what they owe or keep score of who has given more. Instead, the focus is on the relationship itself. This can build strong bonds, as each person knows that they are part of a greater whole. There is less pressure to accumulate wealth or possessions, because the system does not revolve around competition or scarcity. It is about mutual support and understanding. A key part of the gift economy is the idea of giving freely, without expecting something back in a specific form. This differs from the common barter system, where two people exchange goods or services with the expectation of a direct trade. In a gift economy, the expectation is that the gift will come back to you, but it may come from someone else or at a different time. It's a cycle of giving and receiving, one that is based on trust and the belief that others will contribute as well. For example, in some indigenous cultures, the practice of gift giving has been central to their way of life for centuries. One well-known example is the potlatch ceremony among the Native American tribes of the Pacific Northwest. At a potlatch, leaders give away valuable goods like blankets, food, or even canoes, not to gain something in return, but to strengthen relationships, show wealth, and ensure the community's welfare. The value of the gifts is not in their price or quantity, but in the social bond they create. Those who receive the gifts don't owe anything immediately, but over time the giving cycle continues, and the wealth flows back into the community in different ways. The idea behind this is that wealth and resources are meant to circulate. In a society focused on money, resources are often hoarded or controlled by a few, leading to inequality. In a gift economy, resources are shared more freely, and the emphasis is on the well-being of the group, rather than individual accumulation. While it may seem like an inefficient system compared to a cash-based economy, it actually fosters a deeper sense of social responsibility. The people involved are bound by an unspoken understanding that everyone's needs will eventually be met, because everyone is contributing in some way. Another example of a gift economy can be seen in modern communal living arrangements, such as co-housing communities or intentional communities. In these settings, people often trade services and goods without money. One person might be a skilled carpenter and offer to build a bookshelf for another person. In return, the second person might offer to teach the first person how to cook a new dish or provide childcare. The transactions are not made in the form of money, but in mutual support. The community functions on the idea that everyone has something to offer, whether it's a skill, time, or resources, and that by giving, everyone benefits. There are also modern examples of gift economies in the digital world. Many online platforms operate on the idea of sharing knowledge and resources for free, trusting that the community will continue to contribute. Open source software is a perfect example of this. Developers create and share their work without charging money. Instead, they trust that others will contribute their own code, ideas, or improvements in return. This creates a system where innovation and resources are shared freely, allowing the whole community to grow and develop together. Though it may not be the same as a traditional gift economy, the principle of giving freely and contributing to a collective good is the same. The gift economy is not without its challenges. It can be difficult to sustain, especially when there is a lack of trust or when people are not equally committed to giving. There is also the issue of imbalance. In some cases, people may end up giving more than they receive, which can lead to burnout or resentment. However, when the system works, it can create a powerful sense of community and mutual respect. People learn to give without counting and receive without guilt. There is an understanding that the true value of the exchange lies in the connection and the goodwill created, rather than in the material or tangible outcome. In contrast to the traditional market economy, which is driven by competition and individual profit, the gift economy thrives on cooperation and shared goals. The success of a gift economy is not determined by the accumulation of wealth, but by the quality of relationships and the health of the community. There is a sense of abundance, not scarcity. Because people are not focused on accumulating things, they often find that they have more than enough. This feeling of abundance is not just about material possessions, but about the richness of human connection and the support people can offer one another. One of the most striking things about the gift economy is its emphasis on human connection. It values relationships over transactions and community over individual gain. When you take money out of the equation, people are free to give what they can, without fear of being taken advantage of. The exchange of gifts becomes a way of deepening relationships, rather than a way of securing something for yourself. People don't give to receive, but because they recognize that what they offer has value and can help others. It is about creating a world where generosity rather than profit is the driving force. Imagine a neighborhood where everyone shares what they have. One person bakes extra bread and gives it to a neighbor who has run out. In return, that neighbor might lend their tools or offer help with a project. Another person might have extra vegetables from their garden and gives them to someone who needs food. There is no accounting, no measuring of value in terms of dollars. The value is in the act of giving and the trust that it will be returned, not necessarily by the same person, but by the community as a whole. In the end, the gift economy challenges the idea that everything has a price. It offers a different way of thinking about value, one that focuses on human connection and mutual care, rather than on profit and exchange. The beauty of this system is that it doesn't rely on money as the measure of worth. Instead, it asks for something deeper: generosity, trust, and a commitment to the collective well-being of all. Guilds and craft traditions have long been the foundation of skilled work passed down through generations. These traditions focus on learning not just a trade, but a way of life. Mastery in any craft, whether it's blacksmithing, woodworking, or weaving, is not achieved overnight. It is built over years of apprenticeship, where the young are guided by the experienced. The process of learning from a master is a deep, slow journey that involves not only technical skill but also the understanding of the values and history behind the craft. The relationship between master and apprentice is the heart of the guild system. The apprentice begins by observing the work of the master, learning the basics through repetition and practice. The master's role is not just to teach techniques but to instill a sense of respect for the craft. The apprentice learns to see beyond the mechanics of the job and begins to understand the principles that guide the work. This relationship is built on trust and patience. The master is patient enough to teach the same skills again and again, and the apprentice is willing to learn at a pace set by the craft itself. It's not about rushing to finish a project, but about understanding each step and why it matters. In a traditional guild, the apprenticeship would last years. It wasn't just about learning how to make a chair, a shoe, or a sword. It was about learning the philosophy behind it. The apprentice would spend time understanding the history of the craft, the tools, the materials, and the techniques that had been refined over centuries. The time spent under a master's guidance allowed the apprentice to absorb this knowledge slowly, step by step. This process ensured that skills were passed down in a way that preserved the integrity of the craft. Take the example of a blacksmith. A young apprentice would first learn to tend the fire, to heat the metal to the right temperature. They would learn how to hold the hammer, how to strike the iron with the right amount of force. This may seem simple, but the proper technique requires years of practice. The apprentice would then slowly learn how to shape metal, to create the curves and edges that would make a useful tool or weapon. They would see how each small decision, how the metal is heated, how it's hammered, when it's cooled, affects the final product. Over time, the apprentice would move from watching to doing. They would begin to make small items under the watchful eye of the master. Every piece they made would be critiqued, adjusted, and refined. They would learn to pay attention to the smallest details because those details made the difference between a well-made object and one that was just functional. The same process applies to woodworking, pottery, or any other craft. Mastery takes time. The tools, techniques, and methods that are learned over the course of an apprenticeship are not just for practical use. They are part of a tradition, a culture that defines the craft. When a master teaches their apprentice, they are not just passing on their skills, they are passing on a piece of history, a way of thinking, and a way of working that has been refined through generations. This deep connection to the past gives the apprentice a sense of belonging and purpose. They are not just making something to be used, they are continuing a tradition, maintaining its integrity, and respecting the work that came before them. The process of mastery is gradual. It's not something that happens in a few weeks or months. It can take years. An apprentice must be patient and diligent, and willing to make mistakes along the way. Mistakes are part of the learning process. The master does not correct every small error, but instead teaches the apprentice how to see where they went wrong and how to improve. This process of trial and error, of learning through doing, is what leads to true mastery. The apprentice learns to trust their hands, their eyes, and their intuition. Over time, they become confident in their abilities and can make decisions without needing the master's constant oversight. Even after an apprentice has reached the level of journeyman, their learning is not finished. The journey to mastery is ongoing. A journeyman is someone who has gained enough skill to work independently, but they are still learning. They may work on different projects, collaborate with other craftsmen, and continue to refine their skills. The true master is someone who has not only perfected their craft, but also understands the deep connection between their work and the world around them. They can see the history of the craft in every object they create, and they know that their work is a continuation of a long tradition. In today's world, the idea of a lifelong apprenticeship may seem outdated. Many people work in jobs where they learn a set of skills quickly and then move on to other tasks. The pace of life has sped up, and the focus is often on efficiency rather than mastery, but there is still great value in taking the time to learn a craft deeply, to spend years honing skills, and to connect with the history of the work. In fact, many people today are turning back to traditional crafts, seeking to find meaning and purpose in their work. They understand that mastery isn't just about completing a task quickly, it's about doing something well, with care, and with an understanding of its importance. A modern-day example of this might be a furniture maker who learns from a skilled woodworker. The apprentice may spend years learning how to choose the right type of wood, how to cut and join pieces together, how to finish and polish the surface. They will also learn the philosophy of craftsmanship, the importance of precision, the value of patience, and the satisfaction that comes from creating something beautiful and functional. Even when they become skilled enough to work independently, they will still seek to refine their craft, perhaps learning new techniques or exploring different styles. They may find that mastery is not just about making something perfect, but about expressing their personal connection to the craft. The process of learning a craft through apprenticeship teaches humility. It reminds us that mastery is not a destination, but a journey. It requires patience, persistence, and a willingness to accept failure and learn from it. The relationship between the master and the apprentice is also built on trust and respect. The apprentice trusts the master's experience, while the master respects the apprentice's eagerness to learn and grow. This mutual respect is what keeps the tradition alive, as each generation of apprentices brings new energy and ideas to the craft. In the end, guilds and craft traditions are about much more than just making things. They are about creating a deep connection to the work, to the history of the craft, and to the community of people who carry that tradition forward. Mastery is not just about skill, it's about understanding the value of the work and the importance of passing it on. Common stewardship is the idea that certain resources, land, water, and forests, are shared and should be cared for collectively. Rather than being controlled by one individual or company, these resources belong to the community, and everyone has a role in their upkeep and protection. The concept relies on the belief that when people work together, they can manage these resources in a way that benefits everyone now and in the future. For centuries, people have relied on common stewardship to manage their resources. In medieval England, for example, villagers would share common land. This land was used for grazing animals, gathering firewood, or growing food. The villagers worked together to ensure that the land was used wisely, and they created rules to prevent overuse or damage. Each person had the right to use the land, but there were limits to prevent anyone from taking too much. If someone took more than their fair share, they could be punished or forced to repair the damage they caused. This system allowed the community to live off the land without depleting its resources. Water has long been a shared resource in many parts of the world. In places like the Middle East, where water is scarce, communities have developed systems to share and manage water supplies. These systems, often based on centuries-old traditions, include rules for how much water each person or group can use and when they can use it. In some cases, communities built large systems or irrigation systems to ensure that everyone had access to water, even in dry seasons. These systems were not only about sharing resources, they were also about protecting the water from contamination and waste. By working together, the community could make sure that the water remained clean and available for future generations. Forests too have been managed through common stewardship. In many cultures, forests were seen as a shared space where people could gather wood for heating, building, and other needs. But like water and land, forests needed to be protected from overuse. If people cut down too many trees or didn't allow the forest to regenerate, it would quickly become depleted, and the community would suffer. To avoid this, communities set up systems for responsible use. In some cases, the forest was divided into sections, and each family or group was allowed to harvest from their section, ensuring that no one took too much. In other cases, the community would set aside certain areas as protected, allowing the forest to grow back and maintain its health. In more modern times, common stewardship can still be seen in the way communities manage shared spaces. For instance, many towns have public parks where people can gather, play, and enjoy nature. These parks are cared for collectively, by the people who use them and by local governments. People who visit the park may be asked to follow certain rules, like not littering or picking plants, to help keep the space clean and healthy. When people take care of these spaces together, they can enjoy them for many years. This shared responsibility helps ensure that the park remains a place where everyone can go to relax and connect with nature. Another example of common stewardship is the management of community gardens. These gardens are spaces where people come together to grow food, often in cities where access to fresh produce is limited. In a community garden, everyone has a plot of land to care for, and the community works together to share resources like water and tools. People also work together to solve problems, such as pest control or crop rotation. This collaborative approach allows people to grow food sustainably while building strong connections with their neighbors. The success of a community garden depends on everyone working together and respecting the rules set by the group. One of the most important aspects of common stewardship is the idea that the land, water, and forests are not just for the benefit of the present generation, but for future generations as well. When people share resources, they are responsible for making sure those resources are available for their children and grandchildren. This long-term view is essential to common stewardship. It means thinking beyond immediate needs and considering the impact that actions today will have on the future. This approach helps communities make decisions that are good for both the environment and the people who rely on it. In the past, many commons were overseen by a community leader or a council of people who helped make sure everyone followed the rules. Today, common stewardship often involves local governments or environmental organizations that work with communities to create guidelines for resource use. These guidelines might include restrictions on how much water can be used, or when certain areas of the forest can be harvested. The goal is to find a balance between meeting the community's needs and protecting the environment. This kind of management often requires input from all members of the community, ensuring that everyone has a say in how resources are used. In some cases, common stewardship can also involve bringing people together to protect shared natural areas. For example, in places with fragile ecosystems, like wetlands or forests, local groups may organize efforts to prevent pollution, reduce waste, or stop illegal logging. These efforts often involve working with local governments, scientists, and conservationists to ensure that the area is protected for future generations. When communities take responsibility for protecting these areas, they not only help preserve biodiversity but also create a sense of shared ownership and pride in their local environment. One of the key challenges of common stewardship is balancing the needs of different groups. In any community, there are often many different people with different interests. Some may rely on the land for farming, others for recreation, and still others for conservation. These groups may sometimes come into conflict, especially if resources are scarce or overused. To avoid these conflicts, it is important for everyone to be involved in the decision-making process. This means listening to all perspectives, finding common ground, and working together to create solutions that work for everyone. When this is done effectively, it can strengthen the community and ensure that everyone has a stake in protecting the shared resources. The concept of common stewardship can also be applied to larger scales, such as national parks, rivers, and oceans. These vast areas of land and water are shared by many people and often cross national borders. In these cases, international cooperation is essential. Governments, organizations, and communities must come together to create agreements that protect these resources while allowing for sustainable use. Global efforts to protect forests, reduce carbon emissions, and preserve marine life are all part of common stewardship on a larger scale. These efforts highlight the importance of shared responsibility in maintaining the health of the planet. Ultimately, common stewardship is about recognizing that we all have a responsibility to take care of the resources that sustain us. It's about understanding that these resources are not limitless and that they belong to everyone, not just one person or group. When we work together to care for shared land, water, and forests, we create stronger communities, protect the environment, and ensure that future generations can enjoy the same resources that we have. The practice of common stewardship reminds us that we are all connected to each other and to the earth, and that our actions today will shape the world of tomorrow.